Welcome back. This is Beyond the Box Score. I'm Dan Schneier. That's Jacob Gibbs. And we've got a lot to talk about today. So there's going to be no intro. There's going to be no question for Jacob. We get right into this thing with 5 exciting players I want to talk about. And Jacob and I have been discussing off pod 5 deep dives in 15 minutes. You think we have any chance of being able to do that?
Oh, yeah. I'm confident. I'm prepared for this show. We started a little bit later today, but I think that we've got a lot of cool stuff for you. Going to get to waiver wire at the end, fill your Kimani, Vidal, Tez Johnson, all your sicko needs. We've got you. But Dan, before we even get to the 15 minutes,
okay.
We're not off to a good start here, but I do believe in us. Before we even get to that, I've got something for you, my man. So
let's see what it is.
Yeah, Dan has been a soldier here. He's endured the Daniel Jones stats that I brought to the show, and I know that hasn't been easy. So what I've got for you today is catchable target rate. This is per the fantasy points data suite. Minimum 50 attempts. Catchable target rate through 6 weeks of the NFL season. Number 1, Dak Prescott, 81.7%. Number 2, Jared Goff. Number 3, Drake May. We love that. Number 4, ahead of Daniel Jones, 81.2%. Jaxson.
Let's go. Catchable target rate. Let's go. He's putting the ball on target. And who's he doing it with? No receivers. He doesn't have Michael Pittman. He doesn't have Tyler Warren. He doesn't have Shane Steichen. Jonathan Taylor. Let's go.
That feels good.
Dart. The hype train has begun.
Yeah, I've got even more fun accuracy notes on Dart and the rest of the league that we'll get to later in the show. But for now, let's stick with Dart. We're going to do 5 deep dives in 15 minutes. Jaxson Dart. I've got some, let's just keep pumping the hype here. I've got some Jaden Daniels comparisons for you, Dan. Can you handle that?
I can handle it. Who knows if I'll be able to handle that?
Did you see that? Did you see that Scott Barrett's comparison for Dart was like Patrick Mahomes if he played his rookie season, like if he wasn't?
I did not see that. So now we're getting Mahomes comparisons, Jaden Daniels comparisons. I don't think this show could have gotten off to a better start for me.
So here's Dart. He's made 3 starts. He's put up 20, 16, and 24 points in those starts. So he is averaging an identical 19.7 fantasy points per game, identical to Jaden Daniels in 4 games this year. Their stats are really, really similar. And of course, we're dealing with a small sample size here. Don't, go trade your Jaxson or your Jaden Daniels for Jaxson Dart. But fantasy points per dropback in 2025, 0.63 Jaxson Dart, 0.60 Jaden Daniels. Scramble rate, 13.6% of his dropbacks. Jaden Daniels is scrambling. That's up from last year when he led the league at 12.5%. Jaxson Dart is at 13.2%, and he's getting way more designed runs than Daniels. 5 designed runs per game for Dart, 2.8 per game for Daniels. I don't think that we can see this type of rushing continue for Dart. It is just a 3-game sample size, but they are really, really weaponizing his legs. And I did some digging historically. This is really unlike anything we've ever seen. Rushing, it is. It sounds crazy, but it is. Rushing yards per start through an initial 5 games of a career. Jaden Daniels averaged 60. Dart is at 56. The next guys are Dante Culpepper at 50, Jake May at 49, and Robert Griffin III at 48. This is dating back to 2000. So really exciting stuff for Dart. We knew that he had the athleticism. Do you have anything on Dart's legs? Like, do you think this continues? Because they really kind of need to.
I think what's most shocking to me is seeing how high Jaden Daniels still is, because this feels so unsustainable for Dart from the Giants standpoint, from like my standpoint watching this to an extent, right? So a lot of what he's done is, as you mentioned, design runs. That's something we mentioned, I think maybe in August, or at some point you once asked me on this show, Jacob, what do you expect from Dart if he does get the chance to play? We probably never expected it to be as soon as it was. And I said, there will be design runs. There were design runs for every quarterback in the Brian Daboll offense, including Tommy DeVito. There was no doubt in my mind it would be for Dart. So those will stay. In the red zone, he's become a big weapon. So I believe those design runs really help them there. So we'll see a lot of the calls concentrated in that area. As far as the scrambles go, I don't necessarily feel, Jacob, like he's done it at and this is going to sound ridiculous given the stats you just went over, I don't feel like he's done it at the most unsustainable rate from an eye test standpoint. From the numbers standpoint, of course it is, right? This has to go down. But a lot of the time when he's pulled it down to run, it's because the pocket's broke or he's broken the pocket. But he's not like just looking to run every time. He's found plenty of third down solutions with his arm, if you look at the numbers. So ultimately speaking, will this change? Maybe. But during this season, I'm not so sure. But one thing I will say, in matchups like this one in week 7, this is where I think things could maybe tone it down. Let's take it back a step. Let's take a deep breath on Jaxson Dart, right? Because we still haven't seen him against a defensive coordinator who's going to be heavy blitz and heavy man coverage behind the blitz, right? We saw last week Vic Fangio ran some more blitzes against Jaxson Dart, more than he's seen all season. He did really well against the blitz. That was kind of the key to them winning that football game. He had solutions, but that was with zone, cover 3 behind the blitz. When he's got man behind the blitz, which Vance Joseph will run this week for the Broncos, I want to see how he reacts to that. It's like the final question mark as far as how he can play, but he's playing great football. There's no denying it. I'm not saying it's because I'm a Giants fan. If you watch the tape from week 6, sure, you can point to, oh, he didn't throw that many times. When he did throw, he was on target, as those numbers suggest, as often as those numbers you went over suggest from the accuracy and the on-ball placement stuff. And that was while getting blitzed. He was unbelievable against the blitz against the Eagles. So I don't want to rule it out as an impossibility, but it will have to come down at some point.
Yep. You'll see here 229 air yards against the Eagles, 328 the game before that. So we are seeing him, drop back a little bit more, 45 dropbacks in that game against the Saints, and push it down the field a little bit more. And the accuracy notes are good. We'll get to that in more detail later. At least 50 rushing yards in every game. 5 of his 15 design runs have come in the red zone, to Dan's point. And I like that the scramble rate has been 10.7%, 11%, 16%. It's been double digits every game. We're seeing him scramble consistently every game. So I do think he's like basically a weekly top 12 type of quarterback with this type of rushing. And it could push for more. He's just been phenomenal, but we got to get to the rest of these guys. A huge test for him this week in that matchup. I'm very excited for that. Alrighty, Cam Skattebo is our next guy. We're just sticking here with
the show was made for me today.
Yes, it was.
My God.
Look at these numbers. 4 games basically, and he's averaging over 20 PPR points per game. The snap rate is pushing up into the 70% range in each of these starts. You can see all this on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. 21 or more touches in all 3 starts, no fewer than 90 scrimmage yards in any of these games. But I will say the average is 106, so it's in this tight range. And I do wonder, Dan, if he has the upside to push for big yardage games, if he might be a little bit touchdown dependent. Obviously, the long speed is a limitation, and then also he's going to be the focal point for defenses, I think, is really trying to converge on him. I don't want to doubt Skattebo in any way. This guy can do about whatever he wants, is what it seems. But just as I think about the equation, I wonder if the upside is a bit capped by the lack of explosive plays, like true explosive plays, not 10, 15 yards, and then the lack of touchdowns, which is probably silly to say after he just had 3, but I don't know if we can expect this Giants offense to be putting up 34 points all that often, especially with tough matchups over and over and over. So the guy I would bring up is Quinshon Judkins. So, even with he's been amazing, even with like the beastliest of running backs, if the game script falls apart, like we just saw for the Browns, 3.6, womp womp, like through the first 4 games, everything looks amazing. Looks like he can't fail, right? But he can, I only got 12 carries for 36 yards, basically got completely shut down. And that can happen to Derrick Henry. That can happen to Judkins. If it can happen to them, I assume it could probably happen to Skattebo as well. Do you have any concerns about Skattebo? Is he somebody you would consider selling high, or are you just riding this out?
I don't think I could consider selling him high because in addition to just what he offers the Giants, he offers, okay, I'll look at it like this, Jacob. On the comparing him to a player like Judkins, so I could totally understand that comp. I have so much more faith in Jaxson Dart's ability to move the offense and get them in scoring position than I do Dillon Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders. Yep. Watching that tape of Gabriel from week 6, he shouldn't be starting in the NFL level tape, but Dart can actually move the football. And once they get in their red zone, the entire focus may be from the defense, as you mentioned, on Cam Skattebo, but when Jaxson Dart's in the game versus a player like Dillon Gabriel or some of these other situations, maybe even Derrick Henry when Cooper Rush is in the game, you have to at least, when the Giants go into that mesh point, which is all they do in the red zone, it's shotgun, Jaxson Dart, RPO. He's in the mesh point. He's either going to give the ball to Skattebo or he's going to take it. that edge defender has to respect Jaxson Dart's ability to keep it. And that split second of hesitation leads to opportunities for Cam Skattebo. So I think he'll continue to be pretty effective in the red zone. So that remains something I'm high on. It's a matter of what you said. There's no long playability upside in his game. So I think that probably pushes him down closer into that like back end RB1 range.
That's a good point, though, about Dart threatening defenses. And the other point I would bring up is that the offensive line is playing really well. They really got a lot of push in this last game. They're fired up. They're really loving the energy that Skattebo brings to this team. They are healthier now with a star left tackle, like truly one of the best linemen in the NFL. Go to Dan's Twitter feed. You'll see him rambling about the line. Just like
Andrew Thomas
nonstop.
is number one. And by the way, we were early to this when we ranked our offensive lines a couple weeks ago. In the past couple weeks, we're like, Giants actually not playing bad football on the offensive line.
Yeah. Last stat on Cam Skattebo is he's 8th in the league in yards after contact per attempt, which I think is really impressive given the fact that everything is converging and focused on him. He's ahead of Derrick Henry in that stat. He's ahead of Ashton Jeanty, Quinshon Judkins in similar type of situation where it's like all down to the running back to create. And this is per the Fantasy Points Data Suite. I do prefer their yards after contact, the way that they chart contact more than what we get here through TrueMedia and PFF. So I did want to point that out. That he looks better. Yeah, I think we don't have the time for it. We're trying to do 5 and 15, but I do trust there's more based off of what I've seen looking at the film. And he looks better in this metric here than he does on PFF.
And let me add one final note on Skattebo. I think the one thing to consider is he is a very unique player when it comes to comparing him to a player like Judkins or anyone else. I talked about this with Nick on the Giants pod. You guys can correct me if you're wrong or put it in the chat if you disagree or have other ideas. I don't really think anyone runs the football like him. I haven't seen any running back in the NFL this year who actually gets to the hole where he's meeting that apex defender, whether that be the slot defender coming down or the safety, and is actually initiating the contact every time. Like he's going into that defender. Every other running back tries to juke that defender in the hole. He's attacking that running back. And when you get to the fourth quarter of a game like that, like they're all human beings. Like I know it's like fantasy football. We look at these players behind helmets. These are human beings. Like if you're tackling someone like that all game, who's not going to try to juke you when he gets into the hole, he's going to try to attack you. It just changes the whole situation for you as a defensive player and as a team. And you saw that in the game against the Eagles. The Giants ran the clock out from 6:50 on with 9 straight runs before kneeling the ball. So I just think he offers something different than any running back in the fact that he attacks defensive players when he meets them in the hole.
Yeah, there's really no one like him. I was trying to come up with comparisons for him last night with a buddy, and I couldn't really. It was
There's
like
no one.
David Montgomery, but he's more explosive.
Montgomery also jukes, like he's trying to avoid defenders.
Kimani Vidal is our next player. 63% snap rate in week 6, 51% route rate. Those are both really good. 18 of 24 running back rushes. He got the start. It was not Hassan Haskins. Vidal got the start. They treated him like the starting running back. Haskins made some important plays, is probably the better pass blocker, but Vidal is clearly the more explosive option, and they leaned on him. And I think that's really noteworthy. We'll see how it develops going forward. 72% of the snaps in the red zone, got 6 of 7 rushes, running back rushes in the red zone, as well as 2 red zone receptions. So in total, he finishes with 21 touches, 138 scrimmage yards. Pretty impressive stuff. And the charting was good as well. I think that the only running back, this isn't counting the Monday night games. I'm pretty sure that Bijan would have had more yards after contact. But before the Monday night games, Jonathan Taylor was the only running back who averaged more yards after contact per attempt than Vidal in week 6. That's again per the Fantasy Points Data Suite. And that's something that we saw be a strength of his at Troy coming out of college. You see here, like he just piled up a ton of yards after contact, was great at avoiding tackles as well. And that's what we've seen from him anytime he's gotten an opportunity as a pro. So pretty excited for him. We'll get to the waiver wire later. I want to move on to Ja'Marr Chase, unless you had anything on Vidal that you saw from the film that you wanted to add.
I know we're running out of time, but I do have a quick thing. I watched every snap of his. I thought that they found success running outside. A couple of those plays were either outside zone or off tackle. To me, it looked like on 2 of them, the Dolphins just did a horrific job at the second level.
Of course.
And so I'm a little bit skeptical. Of all the ones we're going to talk about, that's the one I'm by far most skeptical on.
Yep. The matchup definitely helps, but the opportunity is great, and he is a player who immediately delivered on the skill set that we speculated he might have. So I'm pretty excited overall, but the same concerns still exist with the offensive line for the Chargers. Ja'Marr Chase, 10 of his 12 targets were catchable with Joe Flacco. 44% first read target rate, highest that it's been all year for Jamar Chase. So I think the quarterback change is going to help him here. On the year, Jamar Chase has a 29.4% target share. That would be a career high. He also has a career low yards after catch per reception, which I just point to as like kind of a weird note that like I think he's going to be better than he has been. If you watch Jamar Chase, man, he's clearly still balling. This is not like an AJ Brown thing where he like just don't look the same out there. Like I think Jamar Chase is playing really, really well, playing motivated. And there's a chance that the Bengals can keep things afloat here. The other thing is air yardage share, almost 40%. That would also be a career high. So they're getting him short stuff, moving around and in motion, getting him in the slot more often as well. But then also there's like the catchable air yards go up with Joe Flacco being able to deliver on those, sideline throws and deep shots down the field. So I'm asking you, Dan, we're definitely going to talk about Rashee Rice today. Would you rather have him or Jamar Chase at this point?
That's a great question considering how high I am on Rice. I'm going to go with Chase, though. I was incredibly encouraged by what I saw from Chase in week 6. It's not even what I saw from Chase. It's what I saw from Joe Flacco. And the difference between having Joe Flacco out there and Jake Browning. The outbreaking routes, which they connected on one of, that's just going to continue to get better and better. Like, that's a timing thing. And you could tell, like, Joe Flacco's still got the arm talent. He's still a tall quarterback in the pocket. He's still going to get the ball out there on time. He just needs to get that rapport down. And then all those one-on-ones that he just like saw Chase kind of locked up on. Chase, he knows Chase is not actually locked up on. Just put the ball out there, and Chase made a play on it like 2 or 3 times. Like, that's going to continue too when he sees one-on-ones on the outside. So ultimately, there won't be those like yak opportunities that I think he had in the Joe Burrow offense, but that's okay. He's still going to get a ton of receptions. And I think it'll be a different role than Rice's, but similar in the end when it comes down to targets and receptions, but he'll have a chance to get more yards and touchdown opportunities than Rice.
I have Rice ahead of him, but yeah, I think Jamar is like right back up into that range. Like basically there's like 8 top 5 receivers is kind of how I view it right now. And I think he's one of them. So that's good because just a couple weeks ago, we're like, oh, yeah, crap.
It's
like,
crazy how like 41-year-old Flacco could save his fantasy stock.
One more guy. We came pretty close to getting this in 15 minutes. Matthew Golden. The Packers have played with a lead on 74% of offensive plays this year. Last year, the rate was 56%. The Lions had the highest rate in the NFL last year at 59.7%. The Packers are at 74% right now. So the Packers were third last year. They probably will be playing with a lead a lot. The defense is even better, but not this much. Less leading, more trailing means more passing. The Packers played from behind on 31% of offensive plays last year. This year, they've only trailed on 6.6% of plays. That is impossibly low. The Seahawks are next at 17%. They're the only other team below 20%. So that brings me to Matthew Golden, Jordan Love, the passing offense. I think this is the time to buy. Like maybe the Matthew Golden manager is realizing that things are turning around, but still it hasn't been huge for fantasy yet. Haven't had more than 13 points in a game, but the route rate is up over the past few games. The targets are up. This is, finally we're seeing like 15% target per route run rate, 18% target per route run rate, and then 23% this past week. They're using him in the slot way more, 70% and 64% over these past 2 weeks. Dontavian Wicks did get hurt in this game against Cincinnati, but they're using him in the slot different than they were using Wicks. They're doing more of the Jaden Reed type of stuff, moving him around, getting him some jet sweeps and stuff like that, getting the ball in his hand in creative ways, and he's winning down the field. So I know you watched some of the film. I know you're excited about Matthew Golden. How are you feeling about Golden at this point?
Yeah, watch the film of this week. And I wanted to come on this show, Jacob, and say this is the one player we missed on Beyond the Box Scores Monday show as far as who we're trading for right now, buy low type players. And I want to feel that way. And everything on the tape suggests it, from the start of you saying he's getting some more of those Jaden Reed type looks around the line of scrimmage, the runs. I mean, 3 plays in this game were phenomenal. The stop route he ran, which he caught the football and then turned upfield for yards after the catch. That was, Diggs-esque. All these players who are creating yards after the catch by setting up their moves before they catch the ball. He's able to do that. He had that post pattern that he kind of just saw the safety carry on and said, you know what, screw it. I'm going to cut across the field and turn it into like an outbreaking route. That was awesome. And he just showed off his athleticism there. And then kind of that deep ball that he caught was just an excellent job of really him playing receiver. He stacked the DB, got himself in position to make the catch. He looks awesome out there. My issue is the stats you brought up at the start of this, Jacob, and I just can't get them out of my head. They've only trailed 6% of the time. It's not just that, Jacob. It's like the problem I have with the Packers offense and ever buying into anyone but Josh Jacobs is just the speed at which they play offensive football, which we've talked about in the past, and the style of the games that they're in. Like, as we look forward, they've got the Cardinals, the Steelers, the Panthers, the Eagles, the Giants, the Vikings. In any of those next 6 games, can you feel like we're going to get any kind of shootout potential anywhere there, and any kind of really push the pedal for the Packers offense? I don't know if I see it in those 6 games at any point, really. Maybe the Eagles, if the Eagles can figure out their offense, I guess. So
Jacoby Brissett, baby.
Yeah.
Who knows? I mean, you could get into some there, but yeah, probably not. I get you.
It's a problem. So, I mean, there are some games down the line. The Bears games could be fun for him, right?
The fantasy playoffs could be awesome. You got Detroit in week 13, and then the Lions. Denver is a tough one, but it could turn into a shootout. And then you've got the Bears and the Ravens to close things out in the fantasy playoffs.
It gets exciting for this offense at some point from that game script standpoint, but we got a long way to get there. So I just don't want to be too disappointed. I still think he's a buy. I just don't think we're looking at like he could be the breakout receiver fantasy, and it's not going to be at the fault of him at all, I don't think.
Good stuff.
All right, let's take our first break. We almost got that in 15 minutes. It was never really possible, but we did our best. We'll get back into some fantasy football here on Beyond the Box Score.
You can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. So even if you can't count on accurate expiration dates,
that is a rookie mistake,
or people appreciating your fashion sense,
Jim, the crowd is not on board here.
You can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS, streaming on Paramount Plus.
Glad we wear our good jerseys.
Yeah. How are we feeling about Matthew Golden breakout in the chat? Let us know. I'm definitely curious. I know he was somebody we were high on, so a lot of you guys probably drafted him. Today, we are kind of looking back at what happened this draft season. Some of the content that Dan and I made to help you guys prepare for draft season. Look at some of the adjustments we need to make as we look forward now that we have 6 weeks of information. The first of which, Dan, I'm excited to dig into our tier list for the best play callers for fantasy football, specifically for fantasy football. So somebody like Matt LaFleur, we think deserves to probably be an S tier for real life with what he's able to do designing an offense. But for fantasy football, he's a little bit frustrating because he splits the reps among a number of different receivers. Like really the only guy up until this year who's like been relevant for fantasy was Josh Jacobs and kind of Jordan Love. This year we're getting more Tucker Kraft and stuff like that, but just wanted to note that this is specifically for fantasy. So here's a look back at where we landed. We've got, S tiers, Andy Reid, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Kevin O'Connell. I'm curious. I've got my notes for sure, but does anything stand out to you, Dan, off the top?
The first thing would be I can barely see any of these faces, so I'm doing my best here. Is that Liam Cohen all the way down in C? That's the first one that might stand out.
I'm not sure. Cliff Kingsbury, Kellen Moore, or Chip Kelly is who you got down there. Liam Cohen is an A tier.
Okay, so
I'll just read through them.
Let's read through them. Let's see how this goes.
A tier was Sean Payton, Mike McDaniel, Ben Johnson, Liam Cohen, and Matt LaFleur. We were wanting to put the new guys, Ben Johnson and Liam Cohen, in S tier, but couldn't quite commit to it because we hadn't seen them as head coaches. That is a different job with different set of responsibilities.
Fire them on in there.
We're just going to review for now. As Mike McDaniel clearly, shows here, like there is a lot more to coaching a team than just play calling. So we weren't quite sure where they would land. We put them in A tier because they do have so much upside. Todd Monken, we've seen him without Lamar Jackson. It's been interesting to see how this offense has developed this year, but everything they had given us over the past couple of years there in Baltimore that he's been there has been really, really encouraging. So he landed at the top of the B tier with Kevin Stefanski. And then these two were key additions from our guy, Lord Reeves. Rich Rebar helped us remember, because Dan and I get a bit fixated on all the new stuff, but Josh McDaniels, and then this one, Zach Taylor, maybe took some arm wrenching from Dan to put him this high. And looks like you're right, Dan. We've got a lot of takes here that are kind of fun to be like, Dan, it looks like Dan was right. Zach Taylor, it's been rough. I don't even think I would put him in the top 15 or 20 here. As we look forward to the rest of the season. But this is where he landed just because of what he's shown us over time. Cliff Kingsbury and Kellen Moore and Chip Kelly in C tier, more speculative guys here. We had reasons for optimism. They could play really fast, which helps fantasy. We didn't know exactly what we would see from them, how defenses would adjust to what Kingsbury showed us on film last year, how Kellen Moore would do in a different offense. Obviously the Eagles, it's pretty easy with all the studs over there. And then the D tier was very speculative guys, but reasons for optimism. Definitely people were intrigued in. That's Clint Kubiak moving from the Saints to the Seahawks, Zach Robinson for the Atlanta Falcons, and then Drew Petzing for the Arizona Cardinals. So what I've got is Cliff Kingsbury needs to move way up. He has confirmed it. I know last night was not a great game. I'm curious if you have any thoughts on the Bears defense. They really did kind of stymie like the run game specifically, and a number of the things that Kingsbury likes to do to like get Debo the ball and stuff like that. So that was interesting to me because the Bears defense has not played well. But out of the bye week, they were able to find some answers, which people have struggled against Washington this year. Kellen Moore needs to move up. Chip Kelly needs to move down. And Clint Kubiak definitely needs to move up. That Seattle offense has been awesome, but he kind of like LaFleur is somebody where like for all that he's doing in real life for fantasy, is he really helping us that much? Like he's giving us this legendary Jackson Smith and Jigba season, and that is really important for anybody who landed him. It's like clear league winner. But for the running backs, you're not happy, right? Like for outside of Jackson Smith and Jigba and Darnold, there's really not anything you can use for fantasy for this offense. The biggest surprises to me, two omissions that we don't have here. Shane Steichen, Brian Schottenheimer. For Indianapolis and Dallas. Those are basically through 6 weeks the best offenses in football. They're doing, and it's backed by a lot of the stuff that these coaches are implementing with the pre-snap motion, the play action, the run game has worked phenomenally for both of these teams. So they need to be on this list. So here's how I would order these tiers right now. Dan. I'm gonna give you a tier and then you can react to it. Let me know if there's anybody you think does or doesn't belong in it. So at the top, the new tiers, Andy Reid, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay. Joining them, Liam Cohen, Ben Johnson. I moved Kevin O'Connell down.
LFG, I'm on board with all of this, but I got a name I want to throw into the S tier for me.
Let's hear it.
I'm throwing Shane Steichen into the S tier. The fact of the matter is Shane Steichen's quarterback has the #1 first read target percentage in the NFL, and yet they're dominating on offense. What does that tell me? It tells me that this offensive play caller and this offensive coordinator is designing first reads for his quarterback that are open after the snap. That's the hardest thing to do in the entire NFL. So put him in that to S tier. He's doing the best job possible. He revived the career of a quarterback who most people had given up on, myself included, as far as what he was able to do at the NFL level. So what he did there, I'm putting him way up there. For me, that's S tier level by the numbers.
Yeah, it's totally fair. If Shane Steichen were willing to just let Josh Downs be the best receiver in the league that he is, then I would move him up to S tier. But for now, I'm holding a personal grudge against Shane Steichen, and he is in A tier. Let my guy Josh Downs ball, man. I'll get on a tangent with Josh Downs stats, but he's like above like so many of the best receivers. He's so good.
I saw the stats you put up. Who was the comp that you had for him? That was insane.
CD Lamb. If you look at the per route data, he's like, yeah, he's God. S tier, Andy Reid, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Liam Cohen, Ben Johnson. The two new coaches have absolutely proven it. I mean, we got DeAndre Swift going for freaking 30 fantasy points in the year 2025 last night.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
I want a fantasy matchup based on that.
It's crazy. You got DeAndre Swift winning you fantasy matchups?
Wow. Weird trade. That's my only share of him. I have a bunch of different trades that landed me Swift, which I'm actually now happy about. I'm not going to lie.
A tier, KOC, Kevin O'Connell. Sean Payton remains here. Cliff Kingsbury moves up to the A tier, along with Shane Steichen. Matt LaFleur moves down from S tier to A tier. What do you think, Dan?
This is where it gets interesting. I like moving LaFleur down for the reasons you outlined. How much do we want to react to what we're seeing just this year, right? Because that's where it gets interesting. Because in that sense, you could consider putting Shoddy up here, Brian Schottenheimer. Though I have a little bit of issue with that, just because I think Dak Prescott is a big reason why Schottenheimer's offense looks so good. When you have one of the 2, 3, 4 at worst best processing quarterbacks in the NFL and Dak Prescott, it makes you look a lot better as a play caller because he's actually working through the reads and getting to a lot of different spots on the field that quarterbacks can't get to mentally. So I'm putting that one on hold. And then the tricky one is Sean Payton, because I have so much reverence for him throughout his career as a play caller and everything he's done. But like, based on this year, Jacob, are we okay having Sean Payton up in the A tier when that offense looks not so good?
I mean, I think he's doing all that he can with Bo Nix, man. Which
Oh,
it's
so you think it's a Knicks problem? Okay.
you know that.
I know you know. Well, we got to put it on the air though.
Yeah, I feel like we do. I feel like we
Maybe
have
too much,
absolutely
maybe
done
too
that.
much.
We're gonna do QB tiers after this, but yeah, Nick's
Uh-oh.
accuracy has been awful, and he's just like it's a number of things. He's forcing things. I don't know. Like I think Denver will corral it in and kind of do what they did last year, and it'll be more like Sean Payton, just like doing exactly what needs to be done to work within the limitations of what he has here. It's kind of a chicken or the egg thing. It's kind of like Mike McDaniel with Tua, where it's like,
Right.
is you kind of like you seem to think that you're the genius who can make this work with this quarterback, right? You know, like you signed off on this. I have to assume in the same way that like Tua got paid, like under Mike's instruction, like I have to assume that you are probably saying that you can make this work. So I don't want to just say that like because of the quarterback, the fact that the offense isn't working is like not on you at all, because it is. You know that's totally fair. So if you want to drop him down, that's
No,
fine.
I know exactly. I think what you're saying is important. I want to just follow up on it a second. The best coaches are the ones who do scheme around. It's going to sound bad, but the limitations of their quarterback. That sounds worse than it actually is. The reality is almost every quarterback in the NFL has limitations, with the exception of a very, very few. 1, 2, 3, maybe 4.
Jackson Dart.
Drake May. No, Jackson Dart has limitations. Jackson Dart has real limitations.
I know.
I know. But there are ones that don't. Josh Allen, Drake May, Lamar Jackson. Some of these players do not have limitations. Yes, Drake May belongs in that tier. Go watch him play football if you disagree. But his arm leads coaches to having no limitations. But Nick's had obvious limitations. We went over them before the season. And this was a bit of my concern, Jacob, that I brought up preseason. Remember how low I had Nick's ranked in my rankings? It was like shocking and appalling. We can go back to our quarterback rankings. And he's been fine for fantasy, but his limitations as a quarterback scare me. Will they change when teams have film on him? I'm with you. I think Sean Payton will figure it out. He's too good of a coach not to. So he belongs in this tier for that reason.
Yep. And I think the other guys we haven't talked about, Kingsbury and Kevin O'Connell and LaFleur belong here as well. I know that it can be frustrating at times with LaFleur and playing at a slow pace and mixing things up. But Tucker Kraft is crushing this year, and they are expanding his role. Jordan Love, I think, when we get into more normal game scripts, which to Dan's point, maybe it won't be that way. Like maybe we won't get what I'm expecting, but I think over time things just have to normalize. And it's going to be where you've got several good fantasy pieces, not just Josh Jacobs and Kraft.
Right.
And he boosts efficiency. Like it's the same thing with like Steichen. Like it's just not working quite as well. But I think you could just easily point that at like the offensive line injuries that Green Bay has had, whereas Indy's offensive line is pretty much healthy and just kicking butt.
Right. That's a big factor. Can I ask one potential omission that we haven't discussed?
Sure.
And he could belong honestly all the way up in A tier. Josh McDaniels.
Yep, I've got him at the top of B tier.
Okay.
Do you want to let's move on to B tier? I've got Josh McDaniels at the top, followed by Kevin Stefanski, Kellen Moore, Brian Schottenheimer, and Clint Kubiak.
I think that's fair, but I think I would push Josh McDaniels up a tier.
Maybe he's just really hard for fantasy because even like this past week, everybody got super excited.
Nobody knows who to go to. Yeah,
everybody got super excited about Stephon Diggs, and where is he? You know, like it's so many different players mixing in. The running backs, people are really upset about the running back situation.
Sure.
So I think what we see, this isn't a real life list, right? For real life, absolutely, that's fine. Like what is happening with Drake May is so impressive, and so much of that goes to Drake, but obviously so much of that goes to the coaching as well. Leading the league in completion rate in year 2, like Drake May.
While throwing the ball downfield a lot.
Crazy.
That's impossible.
C tier, Todd Monken, Zach Robinson, Drew Petzing. And that's basically where I'm ending. I think this is like the top half of the league, basically. If there were a next name in for me, I think it might be Nick Caley, but we're way too early.
Ooh,
but I'm really intrigued by some of the developments and how Houston has been moving along here. We'll see what happens coming out of the bye. So that's the Houston Texans coordinator. We're getting more motion, more play action as we go along. Stroud is scrambling more. They're getting the ball out quicker. It hasn't been good for Nico. We've mentioned that on a few podcasts. But yeah, I'm just going to wait and see how this continues to develop. But Petzing, I do think he belongs in here. I continue to stand up for Petzing. And I think, look at what Jacoby Brissett just did. He was like QB 6 or 7 in fantasy or whatever. Facilitated a pretty good offense
Hilariously
immediately.
may be better for the offense than Kyler Murray, and hilarious.
Yeah.
That we can't go over now because it's not fair to Kyler.
All right. Yeah. Those are the play callers who I think are helping offenses, play callers, play designers who are helping offenses for fantasy football. Some of them are not, perfect. So maybe that's why they moved down a tier or two, because they're hurting the running backs or hurting, the receivers or whatever for fantasy. But overall, they're helping. Freaking Drake May is QB4 or something in fantasy, right? Like, and it's the accuracy is good
Phenomenal.
and stuff, but also we're getting the design rushing and stuff like that we didn't get last year. So that's good. I feel pretty good about this list. And you want to target, generally speaking, you want to target players from these offenses. Okay, let's take another break and then we'll get back and get into our QB tiers. Okay, so another tier list we made, and this one's going to be even harder for you to read, Dan, so no worries. I've got you on this. We also, this offseason, did our QB tiers. And so, we've done an offensive line episode or two on this program. This type of stuff, it's all really important. This is how you get the production for your running backs, receivers, your tight ends for fantasy. So this is real life quarterback tiers. And this is something we did during the offseason. And I think like having this knowledge with all the other infrastructural stuff helps you have a better understanding of how you might be able to bet on these offenses and the players within them, the skill position players. So the way that I tiered this is the top tier is I'm fine with them representing us in a game against the aliens, with Patrick Mahomes being QB1 in spite of, accuracy notes that have fallen off. He's really struggled to push the ball down the field. I think that he has basically backed that up. Obviously, for fantasy, he's QB1. He's running way more. The accuracy isn't perfect, but I think he's playing a lot better than we've seen in years past. And so I'm fine with him still at QB1. Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson were at next. I did have Lamar higher. Joe Burrow was 4. And then here's the big miss for me so far. I did place my belief in Jalen Hurts and put him at QB5 as a real life quarterback, not necessarily how he impacts fantasy, of course. But Dan, you did not like that. I believe you had Jalen Hurts inside of your top 10, but you kind of didn't even want to do that. So I'll give the floor to you. And I don't think that this is biased. I think that there are clear limitations to Jalen Hurts and what he's been able to do as a quarterback. And we've both acknowledged those all along the way. I just felt like we've seen him continue to kind of get better and better at different aspects of his game, even though there are still ways that you have to kind of like work around him. And then it like all culminated in the huge Super Bowl run last year. So I was just like, fine, you've called it the it factor, but also like, I do think he is playing better as a passer. And so this is where he landed, but where do you think he belongs now? Because I think there's a number of these guys who would push ahead of him in your mind, right?
This is such a fun discussion, Jacob. When we are getting into quarterback rankings outside of fantasy, play caller rankings for fantasy, there's just so much nuance to the discussion that we won't be able to capture. And then this could lead to a lot of, I don't want to say errant, but a lot of people looking at this show like, what are these two talking about? Or they're totally being biased. So I don't want to come off as biased on Jalen Hurts. I do believe from watching a lot of Jalen Hurts tape this year, we've done 2 of his games for our show, and then I watched the Giants game. It seems like Patullo and him are not on the same page, their coordinator, and it seems like Patullo is trying to design an offense around the limitations of his quarterback. And those limitations are pretty obvious if you watch the tape. From a processing standpoint, he just does not see the field very well post-snap. You could argue it. You could call it biased. I'll just leave that up to you. You can do the work on that. But I think it's pretty obvious when you see him, some of the misreads on third downs against the Giants. They were 1 of 9 on third down, similar against the Broncos in that second half. And the inability to make some throws, or maybe not make some throws, but I guess attempt some of the throws in the intermediate in-breaking areas of the field has really limited what they want to do on offense, or at least that's how it seems, right? Maybe it's Patullo's fault. Maybe it's all the OC's fault. But I think I would still just give him, because like I said, there's nuance to this conversation, Jacob. I will still put him somewhere inside the top 10. He has the it factor and he's won a Super Bowl. People are just unapologetically, if you've won a Super Bowl or if you've done this, you automatically have to be here or there. And if you haven't, you automatically have to be there. So I'm okay just bowing down to that idea of, you've done it, you've won, and he deserves it. So let's leave him in the top 10 for now, I suppose.
We'll talk through some names that we are going to move ahead of him, and we will be a little bit more fantasy focused in this discussion because we are in the fantasy season. Again, these are my QB tiers, not Dan's. We each made a list, but I just only have mine here for real life quarterbacking. And I had Jalen as one of the players I was fine with representing us in a game against the Aliens because we were coming off a Super Bowl in which he spanked Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. So I feel like he deserved that. But at this point, I would definitely move Justin Herbert ahead of him. I would definitely move Baker Mayfield ahead of him. Matthew Stafford would move ahead of him. Jared Goff, I'm fine with that. Him and Jaden Daniels, I'm kind of finding the line here. Geno Smith would not move ahead of him. That's my biggest miss here. People in the chat are very confused at why Geno is up here. We'll spend a little bit of time with that. We'll spend a little bit of time with that. But maybe my other biggest miss here, and one of Dan's biggest hits, I want to give Dan more credit here. Dak Prescott, I had in tier 3 listed above average starters who can occasionally elevate an offense. I at times definitely had Dak in tier 2. But the tape wasn't as good last year. I think that he was just not as comfortable in the offense. And so I didn't know like if it was like an end of his career thing where he doesn't have quite as much arm talent and athleticism to do the things that he likes to do, try to fit into the tight window throws. You know, he's somebody who's making a lot of tough plays, right? Like he's reading through and trying to make plays that are not easy. And a lot of quarterbacks wouldn't even attempt. And so like if his talent falls off at all, he's more talented than this guy, but like Kirk Cousins is somebody who we saw get pretty early towards the end because he wasn't able to do that kind of super aggressive stuff as much.
I totally understand that thought process.
And so that's why I was nervous here with Dak and put him in the same tier as Brock Purdy. But Dan had him higher, and I think that is warranted based off what we've seen. So I'm curious, Dan, how high would he push for you? You've got the top 4, and then Herbert, and then Baker, and Dak. Like, where's he at in that range?
He'd probably come in right after those 4, Baker and Dak. And I know, look, it gets tricky with these conversations, a nuanced debate, and some people just are unwilling to accept things. But personally, I think Dak is a considerably better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. And if Dak was on the Eagles, they would have won the Super Bowl too. That's just how I feel. No one will ever be able to prove it. We'll never know. It is what it is. Jalen Hurts won a Super Bowl with that super roster that Howie Roseman just really dominated the NFL on. I mean, when you just look at the roster versus the rest of the NFL, it's almost comical that they would allow one general manager to build the way they did for last season. They've been more injured this year, Eagles. The offensive line has taken a step back, and so has the offense, and so has Jalen Hurts. That, to me, is also not a coincidence. So it just is what it is. I'm just going to say how I feel. And on tape, I believe he's a considerably better quarterback at playing the actual position. So he would be there for me.
I've got a comment here from the chat that absolutely breaks my heart.
We have to push him up, man.
Wow.
We were nervous, but we just had to be cautious, guys. If we had put him up at like 7 or 8 to begin the season, people would have went nuts.
Wow, Drake May is so low, the chat says. It doesn't feel right for Dan and I to be the low guys on Drake May. Where I placed May before the season was in tier 4. And no one knows what it means, but it's provocative. Like I had seen lots from Drake May to warrant all of the excitement that we had, you know, like you can find it like just every single week, me just like gushing about his film, but still there were tons of mistakes in there as well. Like I think had the highest upside traits on display of anyone from this group, with Sam Darnold being next. And the thing though was like, he has a little bit like too much Geno to his game. It's like a Baker type thing too, where like, except even worse, where like he's doing this heroic stuff and putting the ball in harm's way a lot. And so I just didn't know what to do with that because like he had to do that a lot because the offense was pretty much broken. And so like so much of it came down to him. The other thing was there were just misses. There were just clear misses, clear accuracy problems on film with Drake May. I guess like similar to Nick's in some ways, like the arm talent is different. But it was kind of like that, where it's like there's just mechanical stuff that seems like it needs to improve. And like, I don't know how that progression goes. For some people, it's easier than others, you know? I never could have guessed that we would be where we're at, where he's like one of the most accurate quarterbacks right now.
So let me reiterate one thing, because the chat seems to be confused on this. These are preseason rankings we have up. So if you're just joining the show and looking at the screen and being like, are you guys kidding me? This is how you're ranking these quarterbacks right now in week 6, October 14th, or week 7, October 14th. No, this is not how we're ranking them now. This is preseason. We're going in. Jacob and I are trying our best and, the doldrums of the summer to just rank the quarterbacks independent of their teams around them and what they have proven at that point. Things have changed now in 6 weeks. So on the May front, just to kind of tie it all in, I want to see where we're both putting him right now, because I might, it's going to be dangerous.
Ahead of Stroud, ahead of Purdy, in the same range as Jordan Love is where I am at with Drake May. So that's like top 10, top 12.
Over both of them for me at this point. I don't see why not. Like, it's not the largest sample size by any means where we're at right now with Drake May. It's 6 games. But we saw the flashes of it, like you mentioned. There were things that needed to be improved, like the accuracy, like the mechanical issues, just kind of marrying his footwork to his arm talent. And he's done that. And I just think he's seeing the McDaniel system so well and so much better than the system they had in place, the Van Pelt system last year. Like, everything is different. The way he's reading this out, like you mentioned it before, like, oh, Josh McDaniels, we want to give him credit more for real life than fantasy because we can't really predict who's going off each week. That's a really good thing. Drake May is getting a ton of different receivers involved. Some weeks, 7 or 8 different players getting receptions. And he just seems to understand the offense really well, which then just matches with unbelievable arm talent, top 3 or 4 in that regard, and frame, athleticism, playmaking ability. I just have no reason to rank him any lower for me. Like, so
behind Patrick Mahomes, behind Lamar Jackson, behind Josh Allen.
Yes.
And that's it. No, that's it. That's where he's at, 4th.
So Herbert, it comes like Herbert, May, Baker and Jaden is where it gets. That's what it starts. And Stafford. That it's in that range.
I'm fine with him. Yeah, in the same range as Jaden and potentially even ahead of him. I think he's like shown way more in his ability to read out defenses and make different types of throws than Jaden.
And he's working with a lot less than Jaden.
Oh yeah, it's amazing what is happening right now with the offense that he has. So yeah, I think I would have him in that range that I said, like in the fringe top 10. Ahead of Stroud is pretty meaningful for me, and I'm extremely high in Jordan Love too, and Stafford. So like putting him in that range is pretty insane for somebody who we only have 14 games of film on or something at this point.
Safe side. That's like honestly on the safe side, really, to be honest.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, the sample size is so small. Like Stroud, if you just base it off of his first 14 games or whatever, you could have been like, well, he's top 5, and it's like, no, he wasn't,
True. That's fair.
So that's where I'm at. But
it's a little pushback that we need.
He definitely has the tools and has shown us already, like, it's not just tools, like he's doing it over full games, the ability to push up into that Baker range, which is really impressive. So Baker, let's take a real quick victory lap on that. Nobody would put Baker Mayfield in their top 10 or even top 12 this offseason when they did these lists.
That was crazy.
People who really know a lot of ball, and I respect, I couldn't believe how low Baker was. Baker would be below Geno for a lot of people. Baker would be below Brock Purdy. It's like all these ball knower guys, we were
the only ones I think who had him inside our top 7, let alone top 10.
I don't, it doesn't even have to be about us. It's like, I don't understand why ball knowers are willing to move up guys with conviction like Geno and Brock and stuff like that, because they're better than consensus thinks. I've seen it, but not Baker, because Baker is that too, Andy just delivered a season that was like the whole thing. It was, 40 touchdowns, making a deep run, doing all the pocket navigation stuff. Like, it was just like everybody gave all the credit to Liam Cohen, I feel like. And it's like, we're doing that again? We just did that with Dave Canales.
How about that's what happened? Yeah.
How about this? This guy's good. This guy's very good. Like, I don't really understand why it's.
You know what? I feel worse that we just went over. I just listed a bunch of names that I'm putting Drake May in the tier of. I hope I said Baker. I honestly think I'm putting Baker. He's easily in that tier. Baker has a case to be QB5, QB6 right now. I think QB7 in that range overall, all the way up to QB5. From what I've seen with Baker, and I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, but he's one of the only quarterbacks who's consistently and successfully getting off his first read and finding second and third reads. He throws with an incredible amount of anticipation. He challenges and attacks all 3 levels of the field, the intermediates, over the top. His ball placement is phenomenal because he's married his footwork in his lower half completely to his upper half, and he's to his throwing mechanics. He's driving the football from the ground. everything is good about Baker right now. He makes plays out of structure. There's really nothing he's not doing well at the quarterback position right now, despite, Jacob, all these injuries at receiver. How much worse can it get for this guy? Like, besides Brock Purdy and Mac Jones and Jaxson Dart, who's dealing with a worse bag at the receiver position? He's lost Evans. He's lost Godwin. He now lost Ibuka on the season. Like, McMillan was gone too, who was a player for him last year. 4 of their top receivers. That makes no sense. They should be getting these 100 to 200-yard passing games with what's left, but they're not, because he's so good at playing the quarterback position. So he deserves his flowers. I wanted to give him that.
Yep. So we're going to say top 4 with Burrow being 4th, and then Justin Herbert, Baker.
Yeah, that's good.
I had him in tier 2B, which is mastering their craft, or you could say mastered if you want. And that was him, Goff, and Stafford. And that's because we do see, I feel like there's like tangible improvement year over year. With Baker, it's like all of the processing and pocket navigation stuff. This year, he's been even better at avoiding sacks and extending plays.
Yep.
And that's where I'm at with him, is like he just keeps getting better at all the things that he needs to improve. And he doesn't have quite the skill sets that and the talent that Herbert does to like truly unlock everything on the field, but he's pretty close. He really is. Like, he's somewhere just below like Herbert and Mahomes in their ability to make things happen and read out defenses. It's like, I think he's in between those guys and Dak, closer to Dak than those guys.
Yep.
But really, he is a talented player. Alrighty, on that note, I want to talk about Sam Darnold. So I've given Dan a lot of credit here. Now I have to
throw it on, baby.
Have to prove Dan very wrong.
Very wrong.
Dan had Darnold down in tier 5, like basically where I have Aaron Rodgers, which was maybe too low. Rodgers can still spin it, but he just has like very clear limitations.
I said you had Rodgers too low, but I have to take a big scoop of you-know-what on this Sam Darnold evaluation.
I don't know if I do know what you're taking a scoop of.
Nothing good.
Hoop.
I don't know.
What are you talking about?
It's just a really bad moniker that made no sense. All right, let's move on.
Sorry. So yeah, he had him in tier 5. I had him in tier 4, just behind Drake May and ahead of Caleb Williams and ahead of Bo Nix. And at this point in the season, he's like tier 3, even into tier 2. He's been unbelievably accurate. We'll get into the accuracy notes later, but clearly has pushed ahead of Kyler Murray, clearly ahead of Bryce Young and Trevor Lawrence. I think remains ahead of Caleb and Bo Nix, even though Caleb has definitely improved this year. So he's pushing into the top 15 or even maybe top 12. If he does this all year, then it's like he's in the consideration with somebody like Jared Goff. I don't think he can quite do that yet.
If he does this all year, he's better than Jared Goff on an individual basis. I'm just going to be honest about the situation from what I've seen so far this year. Would you agree with that individually? He's doing more than any of these quarters. He's doing more than Goff.
Yeah, he's playing better than like anyone right now, except for I guess Dak. But like it's a very small sample size. It's
I'm saying if he does this all year, if he somehow finds a way to keep this up all year, right?
Yeah, I think the chance of that is like 5% or 2% or something of him playing at this level the entire year.
Yep.
So
I'm not hating on Goff, by the way, in the chat. I do like Goff, but Darnold has played just unbelievable this year.
Yeah, that's where I'm at on Darnold. The only other thing is I shouldn't have put Kyler in this range. Dan and Kyler's like a corollary for Jalen Hurts, just at a lower level, where it's like he's frustrating as hell. And Dan and I have vented about that for years now, but it's kind of low key working. Like the offense is still like top 10 or top 12 in efficiency, explosive plays, and success.
In spite of him. Almost.
Yeah. It's just that you have to play this kind of weird type of ball with Kyler, and it's worked all right. And I do think that's more about Shane Steichen, and then obviously Trey McBride and Marvin Harrison are very talented too.
Drew Petzing,
I think it's Steichen.
It's
Petzing.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm moving Kyler down. He's more in this like Bo Nix range for me, Penix, that kind of range.
Lawrence, I don't even know where I'd want to put him now. Most frustrating quarterback in the world.
I think he stays exactly where he's at. I would move him ahead of Bryce, but behind Caleb, it would be like him, Bryce, Bo Nix.
Well, it's a joy to watch Drake May on tape. It's like the total opposite watching Trevor Lawrence.
And the only other thing I want to talk about here is, before we get to some accuracy notes, is I did not have Daniel Jones in my top 32. And I think that was clearly an oversight. He has played way better than I could have expected. The Colts really are like the surprise of the season to me. I guess
I'll let you rank Jones wherever you'd like. I'm going to just stay out of that one.
Yeah, that's fair. Daniel Jones, let's say he is That's really, really interesting. We're going to say he's ahead of Trevor Lawrence and behind Sam Darnold. Yeah.
Okay.
Like
Fair.
basically in the Caleb range. It's so weird because they're so different. I got no idea what to tell you there, but he's playing well enough, and we'll talk about that right now as we get into some accuracy notes. So Daniel Jones is QB6 in the league in catchable air yards created. So the offense is working. A lot of that is due to the play designs for sure, but we do need to just like point out that the infrastructure here is very favorable. So you've got, this is per Fantasy Points data, QB catchable air yards, their deep throw rate on catchable targets, catchable end zone targets, and then like total catchable attempts is what you've got on the screen here. We talked about this on last week's mega episode on Wednesday. So I don't want to spend a ton of time with it, but I did want to show this to you, Dan, in case you haven't seen it. Matthew Stafford at the very top in catchable air yards per game. Dak Prescott just below him and leads the league in catchable end zone targets per game is Prescott. And then third in catchable air yards per game, Sam Darnold. Fourth is Drake May. So these guys are balling out. If you want some more specific stats of how we're getting to those numbers, I've got that per the Fantasy Points data suite. This is, where is it? Here we go. This is the overall catchable target numbers. I pointed out like Dart, May are at the top here. Daniel Jones is QB5. Trevor Lawrence is higher than expected. You'll see like Cooper Rush here is like kind of high, but his average depth of target is only 6.1 yards. So it's much lower than most of these guys. Comparing him to Sam Darnold is apples and oranges. There's no way to really do it when you're talking about catchable target rates. So I have some ways to adjust that, but for now, I'm just showing you the overall picture here. CJ Stroud, much higher than he's been in the past. He is getting the ball quicker and throwing a little bit shorter, but still, I'd want to point that out. That's good. Some of the highest off target rates, Geno Smith, number 1, Caleb Williams, number 2. So and I'm going to give you some specific stuff on Caleb that's interesting. For all the improvement that Caleb has made, accuracy still remains a problem. And I think this makes sense, right? You've talked about him being a high velocity thrower, somebody who's really able to just put ridiculous zip on the ball, and sometimes that leads to overthrows and sprays and stuff like that. Cam Ward, number 3 in off-target rate. Michael Penix, QB5 in off-target rate. Jane Daniels, accuracy notes were worse than you might expect given the monster rookie season that he had. Right. When we dug into it this past offseason, there were a lot of things that stood out. It wasn't just beginning of the year. It did get better as the year went on, but like overall, throughout the whole year, he was just he was middle of the pack or worse in almost any accuracy note that I found. But again, like, he's a rookie, and that is just his accuracy. That doesn't take into effect like what he can do from an arm talent standpoint, plus what he can do with his legs.
Sure.
Getting the ball out quick, like just ridiculous release and everything that he can do with the ball. It's just that there were misses. There were plenty of misses on film. Bo Nix in the same range this year in off target rate. Jordan Love still in the same range. It's a small sample size overall, but Love is so he can be just really frustrating, man. Because like he's doing the same stuff that some of these rookies are doing, and it's like he makes throws that I cannot believe, good and bad.
Yep.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what he's always going to be.
Yeah.
That was kind of his profile coming out of college too.
Okay. So a few other notes here. I wanted to point out that Caleb Williams, I've got like, you can split it by, if you can see on the screen here, you can split it by first read or not. And so like this, what you're looking at on the screen is anything that wasn't a design target or a first read. And like up at the top here, Mac Jones. Oh, spoiler alert on the Jaxson darts that I'm about to give you. But Mac Jones has been like the highest catchable target rate of any quarterback on throws that weren't to the first read. So do want to give Mac a little bit of credit. He's really played well. Obviously, Shanahan is helping him.
A lot of credit, honestly. A lot of people have wrote off Mac Jones. Then he had a surprise run with the Jaguars last year, which no one gave him credit for, and he deserved credit for. Literally got more out of Brian Thomas Jr. than Trevor Lawrence has at any point. And now he's balling with the 49ers in a lot of ways. He progresses through, like, he reads defenses really well. I like Mac Jones.
This one is looking just at first read targets. And so I just want to point this out because we talked about play callers earlier. So Lamar Jackson and Todd Monken, number 1 in passer rating on targets to the first read. Jordan Love, number 2. Matt LaFleur. Sam Darnold, number 3. Clint Kubiak. Josh McDaniels, we talked about the Patriots. Drake May is number 4 in QB rating when targeting the first read. Caleb Williams is number 5. QB5 in passer rating when targeting the first read, but QB 28 when not targeting the first read. And he is dead last, QB 34 in catchable target rate when not throwing to his first read. We're seeing him get off of his first read more than he has in the past. I brought up that he looks kind of robotic when he's moving through the reads. I think he has a tendency to get stuck on the first read a little bit too long. It's often Roma Dunze where he's just getting stuck there a little bit too long. I agree with
that entirely.
And yeah, the stats back it up that like when targeting the first read, it's been phenomenal. We've seen up until this past game, Roma Dunze has just been crushing as like the most frequent first read target rate for this offense. But yeah, Caleb, he definitely still has a lot to improve on. I think Ben Johnson is helping him a lot. And I'm encouraged to see that his accuracy notes are better this year. But overall, there's definitely still a lot to improve on. So Jaxson Dartman, QB9 in passer rating when not targeting his first read. And only Mac Jones has a higher catchable ball rate when not throwing to his first read. Next up is Sam Darnold and then Dak Prescott.
Back it up a little bit just so I can gloat and bask in the glory of Jaxson Dart right now. So he had the second highest catchable target rate when not targeting his first read. Is that what you said? And then was he second overall?
He's second in catchable target rate when not targeting his first read. He was, I think, fourth or fifth overall in catchable target rate.
Yeah. Jaxson Dart, let's go.
Yeah, so I'm pretty encouraged by that. It's 23 attempts across 3 games that he's gone to like not his first read. So it is a small sample size, but also that's, you know, relative to like the total number of attempts he has over 3 games. It's pretty good, I think, that he's getting off his first read that often and delivering a catchable ball. That was something that people weren't sure if he would be able to do, and I don't want to declare that he can after just 3 games, but I thought that there were plenty of plays on film where he did read through the progressions and attack defenses on his second and third reads at Ole Miss. Yeah. And that's kind of how I feel so far is like you see the playmaking in the pocket, you see the overall awareness and understanding of space and how, you know, the way the defense is playing is going to affect where the ball needs to go. And you see the ability to throw with anticipation, right? So it's like, I don't know why he wouldn't be able to be good at doing this, getting off the first read and delivering a catchable ball. And that's backed up by data so far.
I would say this from watching all the tape, trying to leave this as unbiased as possible. Someone asked on our show, Nick and I, you know, what, if anything, has changed your evaluation of Jaxson Dart pre-draft from pre-draft film you've analyzed to now. And for me, by far and away, it's the processing post-snap, pre to post-snap. I can't believe how far along he is. I mean, it's not, look, at Ole Miss, there was a lot of open space. Lane Kiffin designed an offense with a ton of open first reads. But what we always said is that doesn't mean he can't do it at the NFL level. It just means he wasn't asked to do it because Kiffin was designing such a strong offense. He's doing it at the NFL level. He's making checks to the line of scrimmage. He's understanding protections and where blitzers are coming from. He's watching safeties bite down on over routes and then taking one-on-one shots. He's looked kind of unreal from a processing standpoint, and I really mean that in the true sense of the word unreal, Jacob. Like, I never could have expected this, even if he was processing at the college level, because when you process college defenses well, it's not the same anyway as the NFL. Nothing we really see from a college standpoint aligns one-to-one because the rules are different. And in college, you have all that space at the field side based on where they line up on the hash marks. So for me, that's what stands out most about Dart. It's not just the catchable target rate. That's cool. The arm talent's been cool. The big plays. It's really what he's doing with his mind pre to post snap right now.
Yeah. Got a comment from Christian here in the chat. Couldn't this stat mean, you know, accurate dump offs to running backs? So I took check downs out of the equation. I did include them just because, I mean, it is important to be able to hit your check down. And then I also just didn't want to have an even smaller sample size. Yeah. You know, but I removed them, and Jaxson Dart still has an 88% catchable target rate, which is tied with Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson for QB4 when not targeting his first read or a check down. So everything checks out.
What about Dart this one, Jacob? I just want to hear your thoughts on this. Jacob, Dart's second read rate. Is this when he's scrambling or through progressions?
It's both.
Yeah. Combination. But there have been, I can tell you, Jake, from just watching every single snap on tape, there have been plenty of examples of him working through his second read in the pocket.
Yeah, I'll take out the scrambled Geo as well, and that drops him below the qualifier. So I'm gonna have to find it here.
Just while he's doing that,
I've got another stat. I want to talk about Bryce Young.
Okay.
Unless you had some, yeah.
Well, I had one thing I got to get in first.
Go for it.
We're an hour in. I haven't been doing my duties here, Jacob, to the show.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and call myself the plug god. Well, I'm going to need to start plugging things. And the first thing I'm going to need to plug is you guys right now. Hover that hand over your mouse. Bang. Click that like button. Bang. That's a Mike Breen bang. And I want you to click that like button right now for us. Please help us grow the show. I mean, look, we love doing this. I actually absolutely love talking ball with Jake. These are the type of shows that really get me going. He had so much Jaxson Dart in this show and Camp Skattebo. That's just a treat for me. But the real treat is you guys listening to the show and getting involved in the show. And in a lot of ways, commenting and liking. So please leave a comment. Please like, please share the show. Please subscribe. All 4 of those things. And if you can, do us a favor, leave us a rating and review on Spotify or iTunes. We will get back to reading listener questions, not on this show. This is a long show, but please leave us a question there and we will read those. So thank you so much.
They love the long shows. Anytime I ever am like, we got to do this quick, the chat is like, please, no, long shows. Like, okay, no. Yeah, so Christian says this was more just a general thought about this stat, right, with the accuracy and the checkdowns and stuff, not specific to Dart. I'm just talking about Dart because that's where we're at. That's the most interesting to me. I could, I guess, or you could, if you want to, you'll get the data suite and go do this on your own, do a deeper dive into like just secondary read targets, but again, I didn't want to lower the sample size too much. Like Sam Darnold only has 19 attempts to secondary targets on the year. Jaxson Dart only has 10. It's a very small sample size. But on those 10 attempts, guess how many of them have been catchable, Dan? Targeting the second read, not the scramble drill, not check down.
Okay,
all 10 of them have been catchable. 9 for 10, 157 yards, 8 first downs on 10 attempts to the second.
A lot of third downs. Yep.
Insane. Yeah.
Those are insane numbers. I cannot wait to run with them. I will be quoting those numbers all week in other shows.
So yeah, Bryce Young and Michael Penix are the other 2 that I want to hit on for accuracy purposes, and then we're going to move on to the quarterbacks. Bryce Young is QB 10, just behind Spencer Rattler in catchable air yards per game. It's really been impressive what we've got from both of those guys, and I don't think people realize it because the circumstances around them are so bad. And I know that Bryce particularly puts some bad throws on film, and so it's easy to get frustrated. And Bryce has limitations. We've talked about this for sure. He fits somewhere into the Michael Penix and Kyler Murray bucket, right? In terms of, and even like Russell Wilson, in terms of struggling to access that middle area of the field. But what he has that a lot of those guys don't have at this stage in their career is just like incredible moxie and ability to get out and like create all on his own. But you do want to, if you're trying to keep the offense on track, you want him to be able to access that area of the field more often than he is able to. But all of his accuracy stuff checks out really good, like top 10, top 12. So I do just want to shout out Bryce. He's doing all he can. It's not perfect for sure.
And I will make a quick apology while you shout him out to the Panthers offensive line. I disparaged them in previous episodes. They were playing horrible football, but to be clear, I was talking about their pass protection. They've committed to the run game where they're blocking up really well in the run game. Moving forward, they can block better. It's opened up things in the pass game. So I think that has also played a factor in Bryce's season.
Yeah. And then Penix, I got to be negative here, unfortunately. Yeah, it's just not been good. Like overall, the accuracy numbers are some of the worst. And then in particular, like when not targeting that first read, it's awful, man. And it
looks awful on TV when not targeting that first read.
He's struggling to get through his progressions. He kind of has the Caleb thing where he's sticking on the first read a little bit too long. And he doesn't have the creativity like Caleb does to like make something happen. Like he had this, if you watched the game last night, he had a throw that was like easily could have been intercepted. The linebacker read it perfectly. It just went through his hands. And it's like that play right there epitomizes what the problem is like if you're unwilling to or unable to like escape the pocket and make something happen, and you feel so uncomfortable getting to your second read when that first one's not there, then you end up doing this. You just have to try to force it in. And he could do that sometimes because he has a ridiculous arm.
Yes. But
also like that could have easily just been a really detrimental turnover in the red zone, which we've seen from him at times this year. You just can't really have that from your quarterback. Like, I don't know. That's a really limiting factor overall, and also is demoralizing to the whole team, right? Because like you have a plan for what should happen and he just won't do it because of whatever it is, like being afraid to or something, just lacking creativity or whatever. And so like we really need him to improve, or we're getting into like scary hours here with Penix and the long-term trajectory here.
For the long-term trajectory, I would agree. I mean, look, the Falcons won the game, so people will probably listen to that and be like, "Hey, Jacob Gibbs, what are you talking about?" Well, the Falcons held the Bills to 14 points. That's number one reason for winning the game. Number two is Bijan Robinson, an 81-yard touchdown splash play. That's 1 and 2 if you watch the game. And one thing you mentioned, Jacob, is something that I found so interesting. If you were watching that game, you heard on the broadcast the announcer say, like early in the first half, like, if the Bills are going to jump one of these underneath throws for an interception because he's tipping it off. They're running play action, they're bringing up the defenders, and he's kind of coming off that and just hitting that first read. And then you said it, like the Bills did jump it for what should have been a pick and would have changed the whole game, but they just missed the pick.
Yeah. I love Penix. I'm really excited about him. Like
not.
the potential for
Never
him to be something. I just love it because I love a gunslinger, and I love
for fantasy it's fun.
This type of an arm. For real life, I like watching. I know that he can be frustrating at times, but like you just get throws from him that you don't get anywhere else, and I really like
very true, very true. He has unreal arm talent, and at some point he can improve the progressions. Yep.
Yeah, so I'm not like counting him dead quite yet, but like there are a few spots where I've moved kind of aggressively for him in Dynasty, and I'm like really feeling nervous right now. So we're gonna keep an eye.
Him, I think, and they're winning games, so I don't think you should be nervous for Dynasty yet.
We're gonna keep an eye on that and how it develops as this year goes on. I guess that's true, but like the game where it fell apart, that's like as ugly as you'll get at quarterback in the NFL. Like
he lost them that game for sure, the Panthers game.
Yeah, and so like if that can happen at any given time where a defense just completely figures him out, then it's like I don't know how much it matters that you're playing reasonably well and winning games right now. You can only, in my opinion, you can only probably have that type of a game like 2, maybe 3 times throughout a season before you just have to get benched. We'll see. I don't know.
I'll say one thing. Eli Manning kind of put a kibosh on that. He had like 2 or 3 of those games in some of his early seasons. They still stuck with him. He won Super Bowl.
That's true.
Yeah, not comparing the 2 quarterbacks, but
I was gonna say you can't compare anyone to Eli. Really, those were special times. I don't really know. Like those are so weird. That is true though. That's a good comparison.
That was early in his career too. And as someone said, this is early in Penix's career. He definitely. We're chilling, Andrew. We're not declaring anything on Penix. We're just saying there are different things when you watch some of these young quarterbacks. It does look different for some of them. For Penix, it definitely looks like it's different as far as coming through his progressions, getting off his first read, and just looking comfortable behind the pocket in the pocket. Would you agree with that?
Yep, for sure. Okay. We are ready, Dan, to move on to rest of season update here for people. We've got one more tier list for y'all, and I think that you will enjoy this one. So it was I'm trying to find it. I lost it, but we've got I'll just show you the updated version. I'll find the other one, and I'll let Dan talk through this while I search for it. We've got our value tiers. This is another thing we did during draft season where we looked at the ADP for these players and placed them within tiers in terms of where we thought they belonged as like, this is the best value. If I could like lock in, Bill Krosky married around 10, that would be the number one thing I would choose to do for my draft. That would be the best possible value. So he would be an S tier. In that case, where we landed was George Pickens, Tetero, and McMillan as the S tier values as round 6 guys. And of course, depending on where you draft, when you draft, round 6 might be round 4 or round 5 or whatever. That's not really the point. It does affect the value, of course, but here's the remainder of what we had. So this is, I don't know, half or maybe 2/3 of the names that we had in our original ranking set, which I'll find after I pass this to you, Dan. This is where I have them now, adjusted for what we know through 6 weeks. And then I also have some new names to add in. But first, I want to talk you through where I place these guys and let you think about that. And then you can give some analysis and move things around if you want. So the S tier is self-explanatory, and it's George Pickens. If you could get him around 5 or 6, looks like such a clear smash. Christian McCaffrey at not 101, we had as one of our best values. And I think that's proven to be true. I've got him in the S tier as well. Emeka Egbuka, obviously, it's going to be dependent on the injury news, but getting him anywhere outside of the first 4 or 5 rounds looks like an S tier result at this point. Drake May, we had as one of our best values as well. Getting him in round 10, I think belongs here at the very top. The next, honestly, you could maybe push Jake Ferguson into that S tier too. We'll see how this goes rest of season, but that's what he's been so far, is tight end 1. A tier, Bill Krosky Marion. I know it was a disappointing game last night, but for them to keep going back to him even after the first fumble there, and just treat him like the clear lead back. I think their offense will be that's probably one of the worst offensive games we'll see from them if I had to guess.
Yes.
So I think with that role and with the talent that he's shown, getting him late in drafts, he belongs in this range. Rashee Rice, obviously we haven't seen it yet, but man, this Chiefs offense has been even more fantasy friendly than I think we could have predicted. The offensive line is playing great. Patrick Mahomes is playing better. The Chiefs are the pass happiest offense in the NFL. It's really not even very close. This is pass rate over expectation per the Fantasy Points data suite. This was prior to week 6. And then here we are again, week 6, number 1 in pass rate over expectation. And so like, to me, man, you've got a run game that's not working all that well. You've got Rashee Rice, who is basically able to just step in and kind of be that run game, be the zone beater. He really is like somebody who can beat the meta. So in terms of the way the defenses are playing, I think he could push all the way into S tier. We'll see. For now, I have him in B with Tucker Kraft. Jalen Waddle and Jordan Mason, I think, are just great values. They have benefited from teammate injuries a little bit, but I think that was like part of the equation. We knew like that contingent upside is a thing for players who are in offenses that could be good and they're very talented players. If something happens where the circumstances change at all of a sudden you've got a potential league winner. We'll see how it shapes up for these two. This D tier is like, we don't quite know yet. I think that they could be higher, but like they haven't really delivered that quite yet. And that's Worthy, Tedero McMillan, Jalen Warren, and Bashal Tootin. The role changed a little bit for Warren in the first game out of the bye. But at times he's looked like a almost bell cow level running back on a team that's played pretty well. And to get that in round 7, to get, Jordan Mason around 9, to get a starting running back that's basically a bell cow, and could be good, has been good at times, I think is really valuable. So here's the initial look at the tiers. Anything stand out to you?
I think seems like you've done a pretty good job adjusting and evaluating where we're at in the season. I would agree. The one thing I would stand true with you on is that Rice could ultimately push into that A tier. And we have to wait and see. Obviously, the numbers suggest he would, but I kind of want to see how it plays out. But just from watching the Chiefs, it does feel like the usage they've done recently with Juju, they're waiting. Like they're just like they're on their heels. Like this is going to be Rice's role when he comes back. So I would move him there
for sure.
Obviously, I don't know what happened preseason, but James Cook belongs somewhere on this list.
Oh yeah, I didn't actually think of James Cook, but that's a good call. What do you think about Xavier Worthy? Because he was your addition specifically. I would not have had him on.
Yeah,
like, I didn't think he was a good value. He was like around 5-6 pick. Of course, you can't account for the injury, but we do have 3 games with him back. And I'm just curious what you think about him so far and his fantasy outlook going forward.
So on the positive side, when Xavier Worthy, one thing I predicted that might help his value does appear to be coming true, which is the red zone role. He had a red zone touchdown this past week. I do think he's going to be used on some of those free access routes that they've used, as I mentioned, the preseason. Why am I blanking on his name? The Mecole Hardman on and players like that in the past. On the negative side, Jacob, in which case I probably won't be putting him into any of these ranges, I don't think he's healthy at all. I watch him run his routes. I don't think he has that second gear right now that made him a special player and that makes him a special player. So I'm really not feeling great about my Worthy stock right now outside of the red zone role because I just don't think he's healthy.
All right. So we're going to drop him out then. What about Tedera McMillan, who we had in S tier all alone with George Pickens?
I think, at least for me, I wouldn't have him high. Maybe a C. Like, I don't know. I'm curious your thoughts. Like, to me, what's happened with Carolina is they've had 2 unbelievable matchups in a row that they won't get again this season, at least not in that consecutive order. And they've mostly just been running the football really well and then hitting some play action passes, of which case McMillan's not getting a lot of volume. He did get 2 touchdowns. I don't feel confident with him.
All right. That's totally fair. Claire, if we can, let's take a real quick break, and then we'll get back and finish up with the new players that we're adding in. So these are the best values in fantasy so far that Dan and I weren't that high on in draft season. And just kind of give you guys an idea on like what the biggest
weren't high enough on.
Sure. I was not high at all on Javonte Williams. I was not high at all.
Some of them we weren't high on. Yeah. Of course.
And then we're going to get into the waiver wire as well. So if we can run a few ads real quick, I'll be right back.
This is European soccer's biggest stage.
Written in the stars! What a difference she has made!
The question is, Can you handle it?
Crowd here feels electric.
Stream every match of the UEFA Women's Champions League on Paramount Plus.
Only CBS Sports can bring you big time during the heart of Saturday afternoons. It's big time.
It's big time. It's big time. It's big time.
On CBS and streaming on Paramount Plus.
You can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. So even if you can't count on accurate expiration dates,
That is a rookie mistake.
or people appreciating your fashion sense,
Jim, the crowd is not on board here.
you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS, streaming on Paramount Plus.
Get ready.
Wait a second. I thought we were going tubing.
All 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies and Knuckles are now streaming on Paramount Plus.
And everyone loves it.
Every adventure,
Just try to keep up.
every face-off,
This ends now.
and every moment that will have you saying,
Where have you been? My entire life!
It's showtime.
all 3 Sonic the Hedgehog movies and the entire Sonic universe are now streaming on Paramount Plus.
We're back. Thanks, Claire. All right, Dan. Let's start with Jonathan Taylor. Absolutely dominating for fantasy. And if you look at CBS ADP, you will find him behind Chase Brown, which I put on here just kind of for fun. I've given you a lot today. I've given you the Jaxson Dart stats and everything. So had to throw this one at you. I'm sorry.
No, it's fair. It's fair.
We both had him behind Chase Brown for full PPR and full transparency. It was a weird range where there were a lot of really good running backs, but like I said, this offense is the biggest miss. Couldn't have expected that it would be so good, but it really is. And so I think the only thing that's going to stop it is like an injury to Jonathan Taylor or a complete like implosion from Jones. Outside of that, he looks like a top 5 overall player for fantasy, maybe the best overall player for fantasy. Like that's within reason. Dan, are you fine just like putting him right up here with CMC?
He easily has to belong in that tier. He's essentially what CMC is, but you got him at an even cheaper rate. Look, we didn't predict this Colts offense being as good as it was. I think that's the key to this, right? Shane Steichen's doing an incredible job. Daniel Jones, give him credit, is doing an incredible job. And their offensive line, which we knew, that's the problem. I knew their O-line was great, Jacob. I just didn't know if it mattered at the time of the preseason. And to be fair, Jones had a really bad preseason. He's played somehow much better in the regular season than the preseason, which I don't really even know how it's possible, but it is. And they've been holding stuff back that they're running now in the regular season that Steichen was hiding and keeping from defensive coordinators in the preseason. So good for them. But the point is, everything around him looks good. His situation looks basically, Jacob, as good as Javonte Williams is, but better. And he's a much better player.
All right. Jonathan Taylor, best overall value in fantasy among the guys we've looked at so far. Jackson Smith and Jigba drafted even later than Jonathan Taylor. And just shredding, man, just absolutely shredding. Defenses cannot keep up with him. I watched every route that he ran against the Jaguars because I just wanted to see how much of him versus Travis Hunter I could find. I thought that would be fun. Unfortunately, only 2 routes where he got to actually like manned up against Travis. But it was still well worth my time because he is absolutely on another level right now. He moves so decisively and confidently that DBs are legitimately like at a complete loss. Like there's nothing to be done about it really. Travis had a few reps where he like stayed right with him because he's an absolutely insane athlete and instinctual player. But like unless you're able to be like to match his confidence level and like locked inness, you're just kind of screwed. He looks way faster than I ever would have guessed, but that was like the problem with JSN coming in. The problem was that he's small and not that athletic. 4.48 is what he ran. But here we are again, able to tell you that like 40 time really does not correlate very strongly with anything at wide receiver when it comes to succeeding in the NFL.
Correct.
And his timed speed in week 6 was the highest of any wide receiver. I think maybe any ball carrier. He was absolutely flying on that play where he torched Greg Newsome for 61 yards or whatever. He's really just like unreal right now. So
Yeah,
crisp.
it's the tempoing of his routes.
Yep.
And it's a different kind of athleticism. I think a lot of people just associate athleticism with what's your size, what's your speed, and what's the combination. When in reality, Jaxson Smith-Njigba ran a sub-7 3-cone drill. The only one who has done that really before him is Julian Edelman. And obviously you can look at him versus Edelman and see that he is a much better athlete than Julian Edelman from a size standpoint, from a frame standpoint, right? From the ability to win outside of his frame with length, win on the outside. Edelman was kind of a slot-only player. And the reality is, like, when Jaxson Smith-Njigba, Garrett Wilson, and I'm forgetting, was it Ibuka or Harrison, whoever the third was,
Olave.
were all on the same Olave, were all on the same team. It was JSN who dominated from a target standpoint and from a yardage standpoint. It's JSN who, quite frankly, is the best receiver of those three, and he's proving it this year.
Yeah, you can see here, this is his yard per route run rate is absolutely ridiculous. Like, Puka Nacua is here breaking the chart like he always does. 3.4 yards per out run. Crazy stuff. Wait a second. He's actually not breaking the chart. Puka Nacua looks like a mortal man because Jaxson Smith-Njigba is breaking the chart over here at a full yard per route run higher than Puka Nacua. What is this? It's insane. Week 6, 55% target share. 162 yards receiving. Like, it's all him. 55%. It's all him. Defenses know that, and they can't do anything about it.
That's a great point.
I've been pointing this out like week over week that, like, wow, no one's ever done this before. This is after just two or 3 weeks. I was like, he's averaging over 4 yards per route run. Here are the only players who have ever done it. They all were like top 5 fantasy receivers that year.
Yeah.
And somehow it's still maintained. After 5 weeks, it's like, okay, there's now only one comp. It's Tyreek Hill in 2023 in his huge fantasy season is the only person who's ever done that. It went up this week. His rate continues to go up. Like, what in the world? Jackson.
Let's not bury also the lead. I mean, look, it's awesome what he's doing individually. You can see it when you watch the tape. He's one of the best receivers in football from a pure route running standpoint, from a tape standpoint. But part of it is Sam Darnold, right? I mean, he's playing, we talked about it earlier, he's playing at such a high level, specifically on these downfield throws and these 20 plus, 15 plus air yard throws that are really hard to make. The timing from Darnold is unbelievable. Their rapport is really just what stands out the most to me. Like, they've developed such a fast rapport. And it may come off as a surprise to us, Jacob, and those listening, but should it? Look at the rapport that Darnold built with Justin Jefferson in such a short period of time last year with the Vikings. Like, this may just be a thing where Darnold is helping wide receivers from a fantasy standpoint, and he's become one of those quarterbacks, and we just haven't fully caught up to it yet.
It's everything. It's also Clint Kubiak. He deserves a ton of credit. And you and I talked about this during the offseason. The only reason that we weren't willing to be like super aggressive with JSN was we were worried about the offensive line. You were worried about Darnold, which was fair. We'd only seen it with one season with Kevin O'Connell. But it was mostly the offensive line. And just a bunch of new pieces coming in where it's like, I just don't know what the offensive infrastructure is going to be like in terms of being able to support him, even though we know he's an awesome player. But what I brought up with Kubiak was the route designs, the way that he used Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed, all of this, play action stuff to get these deep outs for those guys. And I'm like, dude, JSN will cook on those. And that's what we've seen is on those deep outs, on those like double moves where he acts like he's going in and then goes out and the guys are just twisted up and it's over. It's like 4 yards of separation on a freaking out route. And it's just like, okay, what can be done? I don't know. Everything is set up here.
Well, kudos to the Seahawks, man. They did such a good job, man. First of all, moving on from Geno Smith at the time they moved on from Geno Smith just before his epic collapse. Like, and then to locate Darnold and understand this is a player worth paying because it's our system. Like, the Kubiak system had draws similarities to the Kevin O'Connell system and the Shanahan system, which he really started his, revival of his career with Sam Darnold when he signed with the 49ers as their backup. Just a great job of figuring it out. Like, this is the system that works for this style of quarterback.
Personally, like for how I ranked them and stuff, this is especially irritating because everything I just laid out, like I was like, I think that this could be awesome, but I was like, well, I think the Seahawks are going to really lean into being run heavy, and I think their defense is really good, so they probably won't be passing all that much, and that's come to fruition.
Right.
But it hasn't even mattered for JSN. Like, there's only really been one game that was like a back and forth game, and he's just been so good that it hasn't even mattered. And like, if they get into more back and forth games, it could be even higher. Like, that's the thing with this per route data is like, if you get more routes, it just can get nuts. And on that note, who I ended up being really high on for draft season was Kenneth Walker, because I thought that they would be in all these, run heavy game scripts. And then it's ended up being that it is just split between the two of them. And the running back usage isn't as exciting as we thought it would be from Kubiak. So that just sucks. It's like sometimes when you're right, you're still wrong in fantasy.
Yep.
All right. Next player, round 8, Tyler Warren, one of the best values in fantasy. So to start, I'll put him up here by Kraft and Jake Ferguson and see what you think. So round 8 for Tyler Warren, round 10 for Tucker Kraft, round 12 for Jake Ferguson. I think I've got tight ends right here. Yes. Jake Ferguson averaging 16.4 PPR points per game. Tyler Warren averaging 14.1. Kraft is at 12.6, but he did play hurt in a couple of those games. What do you think about these 3 tight ends? Where can we put Warren here?
I think from a pure value standpoint, Ferguson would still be 1 just based on where you got him, but then it would be Warren, then Kraft for me.
1. Okay. So A tier, B tier, something like that?
Yeah, in that A range.
Okay.
These were the guys to get at the end of your drafts from a tight end standpoint.
Rome Odunze, also a round 8 pick. He was a player who I was actually much higher than consensus on. I was very confused why they were so low. It was one of those where like I had no idea that I was higher. I didn't even mean to be higher on him. And then I saw where he was at. I was like, whoa. So yeah, he's clearly one of the best values because he looks like a top. I'm pretty sure the last rest of season rankings update I did, he was like wide receiver 8 or something. He didn't deliver that last night, but at least like we didn't see a huge shift away from him in the volume or anything coming out of the bye. He seems like he's locked in as the wide receiver 1 for a pretty freaking good offense. And all the Ben Johnson stuff and Caleb stuff that we pointed out earlier, like it's better than it was last year. I think to get him at this price is kind of crazy. I don't know, do you think him or Warren? Do you think he's A tier?
I think he's got to be A tier. Of course, Warren plays the tight end position. From that standpoint, he gets a little boost. But Rome, despite last night, I still think has the potential of all those 4 players to be the difference maker in fantasy.
Yeah, 17 PPR points per game, and I trust it more than I trust Garrett Wilson, who's in this range, to keep doing that. I trust him more than I trust DK Metcalf.
Well, the Garrett Wilson one's interesting because there's only so many more, I would say, quarters before the Jets are forced to go to Tyrod Taylor. The locker room just will not accept this much longer. He's clearly a worse option, Justin Fields, than Tyrod Taylor for their offense. He can't move the ball. He can't process a defense whatsoever. So when Tyrod comes in, I think it could be really good for Garrett Wilson. So I'm not quite there yet.
I mean, it might be better than Justin Fields, but it sure as hell isn't going to be better than Ben Johnson and Caleb, right?
Sure. Ben Johnson part, yes. But just as far as this like accuracy and keeping the ball moving and keeping it on script, I don't know if I want to throw Caleb in there yet.
I feel like we're giving a lot of credit to 36-year-old Tyrod Taylor.
I am a big Tyrod Taylor fan, so maybe I'm a bit biased. I feel like his tape has always been really good. But okay, that's fair. And you know what? Garrett Wilson's injured too. We don't know the situation with that. I'm with that. Let's say Rome over Garrett.
Let's talk about him compared to Emeka Egbuka. I think that's more interesting.
Another injured player.
I trust Rome's production to sustain more than Quentin Johnston, not as much as London. But at that point, it's like, okay, so we're in this top 6, 7, 8 receiver range. Is he maybe S tier? Because Egbuka was around earlier, and I don't know that Egbuka will average more than him rest of season.
I see what you're saying.
He really might be that type of a value. Like I think this is a huge hit if you're able to get Rome.
I think you're right.
Okay. Javonte, definitely that type of a value. Is Javonte the best value in fantasy, Dan?
I think he's the best value in fantasy so far.
Wow. Yeah, we've talked about that several times. Everything that's going on in Dallas is just so good. Cam Skattebo, round 11 value. So let's compare him to some other guys you could have taken in that range. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt around 10. People got real hyped up on him during the preseason. And Skattebo, meanwhile, had the hamstring injury, so he pushed later. So Skattebo later is a better value than Bill, or what do you think on these two?
Definitely a better value.
There's so much more upside for Bill in that offense.
Yes, better offense. But Skattebo, I feel like is more of a lock to be the red zone guy. As stupid as the sound is, I think he has a better chance of scoring a lot of touchdowns.
Okay.
Even though he's on a worse offense, if that makes sense. I just trust his efficiency in the red zone a lot more than a player like Bill.
Yeah, sure. Bill was really, it was a college and like not against the best competition or whatever, but like he was really good in short yardage situations. I think especially as he continues to get a better feel for the pro level game and the blocking scheme and everything, like his stop ability is so good that
let me say this better than because I don't feel what I think I misconstrued what I meant to say. I don't trust his efficiency more. I trust his role more, if that makes sense. His red zone role specifically, and his role in the passing game, Skattebo versus Bill. Does that make sense?
In the red zone specifically?
In the red zone specifically, and in the passing game.
I guess so. To me,
so
it's
let
like
me just try to explain what I mean. I think when the Commanders get in the red zone, while they will have plays where Bill will get the ball, their offense isn't as designed and focused around getting Bill the football. They believe in Jaden Daniels' ability to throw. They believe in his ability to drop back, find something, scramble, and then create either within the pocket, outside the pocket as a thrower, or as a runner. When the Giants get in the red zone, it is Cam's time, and he will get touches early and often on those trips.
I think that makes sense. But to me, it's like similar type of phenomena exists at the quarterback position with Dart, where they can do stuff where he steals touchdowns. I think that Cam will be more emphasized than Bill on a percentage basis, but I think that
Bill will have more opportunities.
Potentially be like way more opportunities, potentially.
That's totally fair.
I think I'm going to keep him at the top of A or potentially even here, but we already have like a ton of people in S tier. I'm gonna have him right there ahead of Bill as one of the best values in fantasy. Our last player here is Judkins, Quinshon Judkins. Same round.
I'm not in on this one.
Some drafts even later. I mean, you might be able to get him in round 14 in some drafts because people were just leaving him for dead.
Yeah, I'm not as high on this one. This one I've been out on. I talked about it last week on Mailbag. It's just not for me. I don't believe in the offense whatsoever with Dillon Gabriel. I don't believe in it at all with Shedeur either. I may be wrong on the Shedeur front. I highly doubt I'll be wrong on the Gabriel front. I think it's going to continue to look as ugly as it looked last week for Gabriel as we move forward. So then Judkins becomes a player who is limited from his red zone opportunities, not much of a role in the pass game. I don't know. I'm not high on Judkins rest of season. I never wanted to draft any Browns running backs for this reason preseason. And I feel pretty vindicated in it. I know Judkins is still going to have great games where the Browns are able to keep the game script okay, and because he's a really talented player. So I know he'll still have good games. I just don't think he'll be consistent as those players we just discussed.
Alrighty, so I'm going to put him in the we'll see tier.
Okay.
Maybe he'll be able to keep doing it. I think getting a bell cow running back this late in the draft is like
it's great. Yeah,
a huge hit, but I do think there are potential problems for the Browns, like Dan just hit on. I think he could end up being like basically in this range, but obviously we saw how bad it can get last week.
He's super talented. He's like a more talented player. He's definitely a more talented player than I don't even want to say than Skattebo. Skattebo was so good in college. I think people just had a negative expectation of how it would translate. But yeah, he's a great player, so I can understand that.
Okay, so I moved Egbuka down to A tier with Skattebo, Bill, and Jake Ferguson. I moved Tyler Warren down to the top of B tier, ahead of Tucker Kraft, ahead of Rashee Rice. We'll see where Rice lands. And I also moved Odunze and Drake May down just because it was like bothering me a little bit to have all these players in S tier. I guess let's figure out like this, and then we'll finish up.
Okay.
Odunze or Pickens? Because Pickens wasn't cheap. Like he started really getting gassed up at the end of the draft season. So is he maybe too high here, actually?
No, I still think he belongs there because he was gassed up, but it wasn't to the extent of no one was like reaching into round 3, 4, 5 range for him yet.
Okay. All right. This is where we settled. Real quick, I did finally find Dan and I's episode where we did this, and I want to show you the full list. So here, first off, shout out to Austin Lim and the old school 8-bit intro. Good times this summer. Okay, here is our actual list. We had George Pickens and T-Mac and S tier, followed by Christian McCaffrey as not 101, Nico Collins at the 1-2 turn, Brock Bowers at the 2-3 turn, Colson Loveland round 10, Drake May round 10, and A tier. B tier, we had Emeka Egbuka round 7, Chase Brown round 2, womp womp. Bucky Irving round 2-3, Travis Hunter round 6, Tucker Kraft round 10, JJ McCarthy round 11, Bashal Tootin round 12. C tier is Matthew Golden round 8, RG Harvey round 5, Tony Pollard is a round 5-6 value, Rashee Rice round 6, Xavier Worthy round 5, Jordan Mason round 9, Jake Ferguson round 10, Jake Ferguson round 12, Bill round 10. And then this D tier was just kind of guys we wanted to talk about that landed here. I feel like from Jadon Blue on, we were like, actually, I don't really know, but I already prepared an image here, so I'm just going to put them on here just to represent them because we talked about them. To me, if I remember this right, it was basically like we liked these three receivers at the top. That was Josh Downs, Rashid Shaheed, and Jalen Waddle. We thought that they were really good values, but we didn't have quite as much conviction on them as the guys in the C tier. So as I look at this, Dan, I actually think it's like a great job. I think hitting on like half of the players as like some of the best values in fantasy is really meaningful. Obviously, there are some misses here. Like Tony was a terrible pick. Tony Pollard around 5'6". That sucks. Colson, but like the other thing is a lot of these injuries have had to do, or a lot of these players that missed have had to do with injury.
Yeah.
So you're looking at Colson Loveland being hurt, Brock Bowers being hurt, Egbuka now hurt, Bucky Irving hurt, JJ McCarthy hurt. So like, I don't know if you can really take much away from that, but outside of that, it's like, these are a lot of really good players. When we looked at,
for some reason, James Cook wasn't on this thing. That did the show too early. I came on to Cook a little bit later in the process as my guy.
When we look at this list now, to see that like over half of the images here are the white background, which is the original rankings, like that's really good, right? That means that if these are the best values, we hit on like a lot of them. So
we did a good job. Shout out to us. I don't want to
shout out beyond the box score.
I think the crazier part is as we put up that graphic, pretty sure you and I were wearing the exact same shirt 4 months ago on doing that show. Or like,
wait, what?
I don't know if it was my brother. Yeah, go put that if you can get that same shot up. It's pretty insane. The comments are going nuts about it. There's a chance we were both wearing the same shirt.
I am wearing the same shirt. Confirmed. Are you?
I don't know
too?
I don't know if it was my brother's shirt or I have a few yellow shirts.
It looks like the same shirt. That's
it looks
amazing.
like it's the same brother shirt. Is it the brother shirt? Can we get a clearer pic if there's any writing on that shirt? Because I have another yellow shirt that I wear sometimes. This is really unbelievable.
Yeah, it looks like it, right?
So it's the same shirt.
Wow,
insane!
Some kind of crazy synchronicity.
This is not good for me. I've had a lot of commentary about my clothing and what I wear on the show, both on this show and on the mailbag show on FFT. There's a lot to talk about in that regard. Look, I'm just gonna get out ahead of it. I don't really care about fashion, guys. Never have, never will. I have shirts. It's not like I'm wearing this shirt every day. I haven't worn this one in a while, but there are some shirts that are in the rotation and they just keep getting replayed. Okay, that's how it goes. I especially love this shirt. This is my brother's shirt from the night. Crazy quick story, Jacob. This shirt is from Madison Square Garden. They did a brothers reunion show, Allman Brothers show. It was Trucks. It was Warren Haynes. And it was at Madison Square Garden the night before everything shut down for COVID. Insane. Literally the next day, my office, we stopped going into the office for my job. And everyone was at home. It was the last night out. And somehow I didn't get COVID from that. I brought my mom, my dad, my brother. It was my dad's birthday present that we bought for him. No one got COVID, luckily, but just a crazy show. But anyway, I love this shirt. And yeah, I need to add to my wardrobe. Maybe Jacob does too. We can wear more shirts. We can have more diversity. But what fun is that? We don't care. We're here to give you the stats. We're here to talk football. We're sickos. We're not worrying about fashion sense or variety, I guess.
That's amazing. I've got any number. You could even have a tough time even trying to guess how many freaking anime shirts I have. This is another Pokemon shirt. This is just really crazy.
It is insane that we were wearing the same shirts on that show. Like, it's kind of just out of control.
Great spot by Claire there. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay, so there it is. Those are the best values. I'll add James Cook to this, and I'll get this up on Twitter just for fun after the show. So let's give the good people some waiver wire advice and get out of here under 2 hours, Dan. Okay. I've got some notes. You let me know what you think. If anybody stands out or if you've got anybody that I didn't get. At quarterback, kind of rough. First thing I'll do is check and see if maybe CJ Stroud got dropped during his bye week. Seattle has been giving up some big games lately. I don't love the game environment, but I think Stroud could put up some points there, and I'm intrigued by what the Texans offense has done lately. And this was, one of Dan's favorite sleepers at quarterback, and I think that makes sense. I'm curious if maybe we'll see more of the rookie receivers getting involved out of the bye week. And then the other thing is their left tackle. The rookie left tackle is playing pretty well. And so I just wanted to shout him out because he's available in like 30% of leagues or something, and he might be out there in yours. JJ McCarthy is back in our lives, so maybe that's something you're intrigued by. He was one of our favorite values going into the year because
Did I miss something on the update on the McCarthy front?
I don't know. I could be
returning to practice. No, he's returning to practice. I just didn't know if he's named the starter yet. Yeah, no starter set. Apparently.
JJ McCarthy could be back in our lives is where I'm at. He's coming out of the bye week. It's the Eagles. You don't pick him up if you need him. If you need a quarterback this week, I'll have some other guys for you. But he's just an interesting name to know because I think there's a lot of upside. Like of people who are on waiver wires, who is the most likely to give you top 12 type of weeks at some point? I think it's clearly him playing in a great offense and giving you some rushing upside. I know that, there are moments early on in this guy's career, first games ever, the super young guy, that he didn't look great. But I think if you're willing to take a shot on the upside, it's definitely there.
Okay.
Michael Penix gets this banged up Niners defense in a game that, could turn into a shootout. The Panthers, though, are actually implied for more points than the Falcons. And so maybe Bryce Young is your streamer of choice this week. The team that's implied for more than both of them, though, Pittsburgh Steelers against the Bengals. Aaron Rodgers is available in a bunch of leagues. At running back, Kimani Vidal still available in 39% of leagues. Clearly the priority ad. Dan, you had a little bit of hesitation, but still it's like 50%
not
of your
from
fab
that,
at least. Yeah.
Yeah, look, a lot of it was outside zone and runs on the outside, some power gap. He is that type of back, and I think he's going to have explosive plays for the Chargers, and they're going to design their offense to their talent, which is him right now in the backfield. So just a little bit of hesitation from the Dolphins standpoint. There were some really bad plays at the second and third level from that Dolphins defense in that game.
For sure. Yeah, I don't think that you should be adding Vidal as if he's going to save your season or whatever, or be like, 100 yards every game or whatever. But somebody who, you might be able to plug in right away. He's in a Justin Herbert offense, so he's got some upside, and he can also create a little bit on his own.
Yep.
Outside of that, it's kind of rough for running back. So I've kind of got them grouped into like categorical tiers here, I guess. So Isaiah Davis and Bam Knight are guys who could be something. Like if Breece Hall were to get traded or whatever, they're available in a lot of leagues. Bam Knight is the most likely of anybody out here other than Vidal to give you points right away. But it was still a pretty much dead even split. Michael Carter got the start for Arizona, and they faced the Packers. So I'm really not that excited about it. Then we have some young guys to stash. Caleb Johnson got some work this week. Like coming out of the bye, they were intentional to get him the ball a little bit more. Like they've talked about that they still believe in him and think that his role could grow. I think that's meaningful. Like I know that he's kind of like JJ McCarthy, where it's easy to just act like he's, the worst thing you've ever seen in your life or whatever, because he had a few mistakes. But like this guy was drafted in the third round. He's one of the few day 2 running backs drafted this year, and his offense is working pretty well. And he offers something unique to the offense. The other 2 running backs, Jalen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell, a lot more similar to each other than they are to Johnson. So like there is a unique skill set that exists here and that this team prioritized getting. So the fact that they're giving him some opportunities is interesting. It's only a stash. It's only a stash, but they get the Bengals this week. And so could Caleb maybe spring a few long runs, and get more work? That could happen. And so if you've got the roster space, maybe something to get ahead of. I thought there was a chance that it's like, it's over, redshirt year, Mike Tomlin just like focusing on win now. But right away, coming out of the bye, they're giving him some work. Common on guy for the Bears did not see a role expansion coming out of their bye week, but was still out there for some important reps. They've got the Saints, so he could
had a nice explosive run too.
Yeah, he can maybe break some plays in this next game. Jadon Blue getting on the field more, hasn't really amounted to much yet, but the offensive environment is awesome. And then DJ Giddens for the Indianapolis Colts. Would you rather hold him over the other 3 running backs I just named?
By far. I mean, he's the one who, if Taylor goes down with an injury, he's potentially winning you your fantasy season. Best stash, I think, in fantasy right now. Best handcuff.
I think clearly more likely to take a large workload than Jadon Blue if their starter were to get hurt.
Correct.
And just looking at 2 running backs and awesome offenses. So I agree with Dan there. Jeremy McNichols was the other guy I wanted to bring up. I think he's played really well.
Yeah.
And so if Bill fumbles or whatever, or even, in this game, he had a really important 3rd down conversion, and they just kept him in, for the next couple of plays. maybe we see more of that. Things just swing in his direction. So good offense and has looked pretty good this year. He's made several plays. It wasn't just his game. And then Jarquez Hunter, if Blake Corum can't go, probably not something you need to add right now, but keep an eye on how that goes. I think it's an
player,
ankle
Jacob,
injury.
and I really like from both a tape and analytics standpoint as a draft prospect this year, rookie running back.
Yeah, for the Rams. At wide receiver, Jalen Coker is top of the list for me, which I guess tells you where we're at wide receiver this week. There's not a whole lot.
Yeah.
But I do like Jalen Coker a lot, and he might be able to help you as soon as this week.
You're not scooping up little Jordan Humphrey?
I said the Panthers do have a pretty good implied total, so I think it could be a good game for Coker. They've got some good matchups here. No, I'm not. Should I be scooping little Jordan Humphrey?
Not really,
dude. What do you think, little Jordan? What do you think, little Jordan Humphrey's speed rating is on Madden?
I don't. I said this week. I don't know if you saw this, and that's why you said this, or I put it on a show. There was a route later in the game where Dart, he had a go route with Lil Jordan Humphrey as the X receiver, as the isolated X, and Dart did like an unreal job of reading the safety. It was Theo Johnson coming on an over route. The safety bit down on the over route, so he had the one-on-one with Humphrey, and he threw the go ball up. The ball landed outside shoulder. It was actually a perfect throw by Dart, but no one will think that was a perfect throw because Lil Jordan Humphrey didn't even come close to catching up to it. I generally think he runs a 4.7. So a speed rating on Madden, maybe in the 50s. It's okay, Lil Jordan Humphrey. It's all good. You're a converted tight end. It's your 6th year in the league. You're doing other things well. You made some good catches. You had a good little stop route on a quick game. So he's a good player for what he is. He just shouldn't be running the go routes for them.
I believe it's 82, which is absolutely insane at wide receiver.
It shouldn't be. Oh, I think that's way too high, honestly. I feel like he should be in the 60s to 70s. But I don't know Madden.
60s to I was like, okay, you just don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know Madden. I don't play Madden.
Yeah. It's not like relative to the position. It's like relative to the league. Like 60s and 70s would be like linemen or kickers or something.
Right, I have no idea. Let's go low 80s, and that's fair.
Okay, Jalen Coker is my top receiver ad, not Lil Jordan Humphrey. Beyond that, you've got Jaden Higgins for the Texans. They're coming out of the bye. Maybe we see more work for him and Jalen Noel. Dan and I love Jalen Noel, but of the two, it seems like Higgins is more likely to play a fantasy relevant role this year. Kayshon Boutte looked really good for the Patriots, which we've seen at times. They rotate the receivers a lot, so good luck with that one.
Good luck picking the week he goes off.
Yeah, if you go that route. But May is playing well enough that he can obviously have spike games. So if that sounds like it's something that you could benefit from in whatever format you play, go for it. Isaac Tesla, getting more playing time. Haven't really seen any targets go his way, but he gets a potential shootout against the Bucs this week. Ryan Flournoy, also in a potential shootout for the Dallas Cowboys facing the Commanders. Keep an eye on Kevontae Turpin. I think Turpin's absence has directly benefited Flournoy. They've given him a lot of the Turpin packages in terms of like behind the line of scrimmage type touches and stuff like that. Maybe he's played well enough to keep it, but I think they really like Turpin, so we'll see. Christian Watson is going to play at some point this year, it seems like, so wanted to shout him out. We haven't talked about him at all. Tez Johnson, all 5'10", 165 pounds of Tez Johnson is playing
5'10". There's no way he's 5'10", but go on.
Playing pretty much on the outside, only a 33% slot rate, which surprised me. So it's truly like just this. We don't have anything like it. It's a tiny, skinny receiver who doesn't run particularly fast and is not a slot dependent guy. He's like mostly winning down the field. Like if you look at if you just looked at the data, the targets in the air yards and stuff, it's like, is this Jameson Williams? Like it's very weird. So I don't know what to think of his staying power as a pro, but it's been pretty good so far. And Baker seems to be developing more and more trust with him. When Egbuka went down, it was Cameron Johnson, who's a UDFA second-year guy, who played the most. Dynasty people are adding him, and I guess you could, but I don't know if you can trust him to do much. I think he's probably going to be kind of sacrificial X receiver type stuff, and it'll be more like Tez with some big plays and maybe some screens, and Cade Otton and Sterling Shepard.
And don't disrespect Sterling Shepard. My boy can still play.
Well, he just didn't play a lot in the last game. I don't know if he's at a point in his career where he can play like all the snaps.
I think it'll be a rotation still.
Yeah. But yeah, Shepard he's a baller. He can get open.
Hez
for sure.
Johnson, despite everything you mentioned with him, I just find this so interesting. Came in with basically the worst athletic profile you can project to the NFL, which is, of course, why he was not a high draft pick. Did rack up almost 4,000 yards receiving and 30 touchdowns at
Ridiculous.
Oregon. Including 910 last year.
Analytics per route data, absolutely like through the roof.
Maybe he's just a guy who isn't going to impress you in shorts and shells, but is actually a good football player.
He's clearly the one I would pick up if you just like need upside. If you're like, I have to start this player, so I'm looking for 6 points, then I would pick up Shepard. But otherwise, it would be Tez.
Agreed.
The last one is Kendrick Bourne. Check and see if he's available. 27% of CBS leagues, he's available. So if he is, absolutely add him.
Number one, yeah.
For sure. Like maybe even above Vidal, depending on what you need. Like if you just need a plug in right now, I think Vidal, you have a chance that he might help you for like a month, which I doubt Kendrick Bourne will, but maybe.
Yeah.
Juwan Jennings is apparently like injured every single part of his body and is just still out there playing. So that's leading to like no targets for him really. It's just Kendrick Bourne shredding. At tight end, Harold Fannin is available in 66% of leagues. How is that possible? David Njoku injured his knee, and so we'll see if he misses time. Fannin is, you want to temper your expectations because it's the Browns, of course, but probably like a top 8-ish tight end for fantasy, like outside of the Tucker Kraft and Tyler Warren and those guys for sure. He doesn't have the type of upside, but he's so good as a player and create all on his own. And we've seen that week over week. His worst weeks, he gives you like 5 or 6, but there's plenty of other weeks where he's giving you some upside because he's leads the NFL, leads all tight ends in yards after contact. Like he is very, very good with the ball in his hands.
Great individual player. Terrible situation.
So the potential to see him in an expanded role, I am very excited for. And Kevin Stefanski is great at his job and is looking for creative ways to get Fannin on the field and get the ball in his hands.
At this point, I'm just hoping, while I have no real upside hope for him, I'm just hoping they go to Sanders soon. He's just a better version of what Gabriel is. They're both not fit for the NFL, but could help Fannin more.
If he's the primary tight end, don't you think that he could see like 8 to 10 targets per game?
Like 8 to 10, like really gross targets from Gabriel. Possibly.
I think that some of them will be getting like screenplays that are getting blown up, but I think so much of it's going to be design stuff. And I just, those are really efficient targets for fantasy.
Problem with those targets, I agree with you. The problem with those targets in this situation, why they're a little less efficient, I think, than most, is that everything is about to get, it was in this game against the Steelers. And I think every DC will probably copy that game plan. Everything's about to get really condensed for the Browns offense. Yeah. So you're just not going to catch it in much space.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so Fannin would be my top ad, but some other options for you to consider. Michael Mayer. For the Raiders, don't know when we'll see Bowers, but Mayer was out there for basically every play. So it's good to see that he's healthy. This is a guy that was drafted in round 2 at Notre Dame, like big athletic guy. And he made some plays this past week. 30% target share. There's target vacancy, with
and we have no idea when Bowers will be back at this point. It's a scary situation.
Yeah, Jacoby Myers is kind of faded and Bowers is gone, so it's like there's definitely target potential here in this offense. Oronde Gadsden, 75% snap rate for the Chargers. He's stepped up and is a guy that has a lot of talent, so he's interesting. And then Colson Loveland and Terrence Ferguson I'll bring up as stashes. Loveland did draw the start. They started him and Kmet both. His role didn't grow in a significant way, but I was just glad to see him out there at all because he's been dealing with his hip injury. So he's healthy enough to play, and we'll hopefully see this scale up as the year goes on. And there's not very many. He made some plays in this game. There's not very many like tight ends that are as talented as him that are in as good as offenses as he is. So he's just somebody to consider. And speaking of just like really talented player and a really good offense, Terrence Ferguson for the Rams. 8 routes this week, which is great. Before that, he had topped out at 3. He'd only run 6 routes all year. It's been very weird where like he will come on the field and Dan will like isolate. I don't know if you've seen any of these plays where it's like Ferguson on one side.
Oh, he's the isolated backside. Oh,
and they're like clearly doing something to like get him the ball. Like not necessarily like it'll be like first read over there and then to him or something. Or sometimes it's just he's the first read and he just wins one-on-one. And they love him, right? Like they've talked about him. It's just like they seem to have some limitations, it feels like, in how they think he can fit into the offense as a blocker or something, or maybe just needs to learn more of the offense or something. Who knows? but this week there was more of him. So maybe it'll keep scaling up. You're not going to find, if you're in deep leagues and stuff like that, you're not going to find very much like this in terms of upside at tight end, I don't think, on the waiver wire.
Intriguing.
For sure.
Definitely like this college.
Especially if Puka misses time or whatever, like maybe he's somebody who gets more looks.
That's why I'm intrigued, because like a lot of what they do with Puka is what you could see potentially them doing with a move tight end type like Ferguson.
I will say though, Puka came back into the game. Did you see that?
That was weird. Puka came back and played 3 plays. Yeah, I don't understand
in the red zone. In the red zone, for anybody who doesn't know what I'm talking about, in the red zone, the Rams so he got hurt in the early second quarter, and then they brought him in the third quarter for red zone play, and they brought him in for 2 red zone plays in the fourth quarter, and he looked fine. It wasn't like he was just being a decoy. He looked fine. I don't.
He may just play this week, and it may end up being nothing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's why I didn't include any Rams in this. Like you could pick up Jordan Whittington or whatever, or Tutu Atwell.
No.
Yeah.
No.
All right, you ready to wrap up?
Yeah, let's do it. Thanks so much for tuning in to a longer episode of Beyond the Box Score. Had a really good time talking with Jacob, going over some of the takes we had in the past, our preseason rankings of play callers for fantasy and quarterbacks independent. Going over some waiver wire options. So great show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate all of you being a part of this. A lot of activity in the comments. That really helps us grow the show. One thing, if you want to help us continue to grow the show, in addition to clicking the like button, after the show is over, Michael Albin says, nice shirt, boys. Yeah, we apparently wear these shirts a lot. But after the show is over, please do us a favor and go back into the show and then leave a comment on the show after. So these shows that the comments you're leaving now during the show are part of the live chat. We need them after too to help boost that algorithm. Thank you so much. And one final comment I will leave with, somebody did say, Dan, great shirt. Dwayne Allman is the GOAT, and he is correct. Dwayne Allman, Satoshi just said it again, is the GOAT, the greatest of all time, the best slide guitarist by far in the history of slide guitar. And I would just argue the best pure guitarist in the history of the game. So that has nothing to do with fantasy. We're going off the rails here, Jacob. Thank you to everybody tuning in. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you soon.